580 Sports Talk coming to you on a Tuesday. Thank you so much for stopping by, and hopefully the Royals can find a way to beat one of the worst teams in Major League Baseball history, despite themselves being also one of the worst teams in Major League history. We got lots to get to on this Tuesday edition. Chris Jones tweets. We will get some information, one on Chris Jones, some roster construction. Bobby Witt Jr. continues his heater. The Royals have released renderings of each prospective site, one in North Kansas City and one in the East Village. We will go over that. We'll give you our opinion on which one looks better, even though the rendering's probably not going to be what it looks like, because that's what renderings are. We also, we got plenty to get to. We're going to hear from the coordinators, Matt Nagy and Steve Spagnuolo. That will be coming up today. Matt LeMar of Royals Review talking extension for Bobby Witt Jr., Michael Swain as well, Mitch Holthus. A lot to get to on this Tuesday edition of 580 Sports Talk. Let us know your thoughts. Hit us up on our text line, 785-272-9429. Also, go to our YouTube page. Go to youtube.com, search 580 Sports Talk, and you can interact with us here on the show. So we'll get to some Royals baseball. It is Random Question Tuesday. I got a very important question to ask you guys. Okay. Very important question.
I'm going to do some production advice here. I'm sorry to cut you off. I'm going to need you to tip your screen like slightly forward.
Who, me?
You, yes. Dan and I are covering the entirety of our third of the YouTube stream. You were like a little Smurf down there. You're way too low.
I'm not a big guy, so.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, not big at all.
That works out.
Old Tiny LeBon, as we've called him for years.
Old Short Stack Jake.
Short Stack Jake.
See, now it's nice and perfectly level across the board.
Yeah, kind of. I still have like the biggest face. I'm the closest to the camera.
So. Well, yeah, see, Dan is in the most precarious position here because where his camera is slightly slanted, and if you move it too much, it's going to fall or get all goofed up in there.
Mm-hmm. We got a real, movie theater, movie cinematograph vibe going on right now.
Hey, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it right.
So we do have a lot to get to today. We'll go around the NFL. I think it's a fascinating situation what's happening with Jonathan Taylor. We're going to get to that. And you guys get to put your GM hats on. And we will find
As if I ever take it off.
Right? You don't have to get ready.
If you stay ready.
When you stay ready.
Amen.
When you stay ready. Speaking of staying ready, I think Brett Veach has got some interesting decisions to make coming up. Did you know that we are 1 week away from roster cutdown day? And I do think there are some interesting decisions for the Kansas City Chiefs on how and maybe what they feel are their strengths, weaknesses, but also how to cover up a weakness. Because I think a lot of what the Chiefs are going to deal with for this roster construction day is going to involve covering your potential weaknesses with your roster. And let me explain. I think the Chiefs are keeping 4 running backs because I don't know if Pacheco is going to make it through the whole entire season. I think you have to keep 4 running backs because if you keep 3, somebody's going to pick up Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Somebody will. So if you cut Clyde Edwards-Helaire and you just roll with either Isaiah Pacheco, Jerick McKinnon, and Deneric Prince, or now LaMichael Pirine is apparently moving up the roster construction potentially. But I think they're going to keep 4 because of the volatility, and they don't want to use Jerick McKinnon a ton until the end of the year. So I don't know. I think they're going to keep 4 running backs, and I think that's going to affect something else. The other thing is, do they have to keep an extra wide receiver simply because if you don't know what Kadarius Toney is going to do? Kadarius Toney could be out. That's why I think 7 is a lock. I think there's no question they're keeping 7. 7, because with Toney potentially being out at who knows how long of a time, leaves you with 6 then. And there's a decent chance that they start the season with 6, and Toney is either inactive for game number 1, or he goes on IR. And then the other aspect to me, decisions for what the Kansas City Chiefs are going to do now involve Chris Jones. We're going to hear from Steve Spagnuolo. Steve Spagnuolo didn't exactly exemplify confidence that Chris Jones is going to be here at any point in time. Chris Jones having some fun on social media today. The cryptic Chris Jones tweets are out.
I'm fed up with that, man. I'm tired of the act.
He's now
either keep your mouth shut or figure out what you want to do with your contract. Quit trolling people on Twitter. I'm tired of that act, man. It's gotten old.
And now it's gotten to the point where it is he's actively, I don't mind if you have some fun with it, right? But now when he tweets out something, if it's out of your hands, it deserves freedom. And then, people are talking about that, and to the point where Chris Jones responded to somebody saying,
some rando too, not anybody, not a reporter, just rando. Some dude,
where he said, yo man, when are you going to show up and join the team? And he says week 8. And then someone else then goes, wow, that's going to be a hefty tab, considering that is going to be multiple $1 million. If that's at week 8, he's already accrued close to over
$1.5 million.
He's over $1.5 million at this point in time, because he's missed all these dates plus the preseason games. And if you miss actual games, now you're talking game checks. His game checks are millions. You're talking about that's $10 million. So someone said that'll be a hefty tab, to which he then replied, I can afford it. So now you're getting into this is where I'm with you, Dan. I draw the line on you being funny and having fun with it. Now you're just being,
you're a troll.
You're a Richard. You're being a Richard.
He's trolling, and it's not cute. You're an adult, dude. You're almost 30. And
the fact that I said this, you've already made $100 million. Yes, we know you can afford it, but you look like the pompous ass who's really rich, who throws it in front of people's faces and that type of thing.
Just at this point, you're not gaining anything here.
If anything, you're losing some of your fan,
Either keep your mouth shut, or if you want to make a statement, make a real statement. Don't troll people. Don't play with people's emotions. Don't play around with the fans that have supported you and had your back. If he wants to come out, him and the Katz brothers want to say, look, we're still negotiating, but the Chiefs haven't put forth an offer that's satisfactory to me, and I intend to hold out until I get an offer that is satisfactory. Just say that and shut up.
And I'd be fully on board with that.
And I hate telling him to shut up. That's harsh. But I do feel like at some point, dude, shut up. You're not, because that might be good advice at this point as it comes to Chris Jones.
So that's what I look at. Do they have to operate? Because Steve Spagnuolo, we're going to hear from Spags here in just a little bit. Spagnuolo simply said, he's not going to be able to play every snap in the very first game because he's not going to be in football shape. And he's saying that right now on August 22nd. So I wonder if they don't have to do something. And Charles Omenihu is not even going to be on the roster. So does that help out, the Danny Sheltons? Does that help out, So there's a lot of player position combinations that I look at and go, man, do they have to really kind of move around who they're going to keep? The veteran thing. Danny Shelton spoke to the media yesterday. I mean, it was to the point where he said he'll do anything to make the roster. Well, does that mean don't put him on the 53? He doesn't go through waivers because he's been in the league longer than 4 years. So then he can pick and choose wherever he goes, and then Chiefs can just re-sign him because he's a free agent. There's a lot of stuff that I think the Chiefs are potentially going to have to do, as long with some potential injury concerns, with who's suspended, who hasn't shown up. I think at the beginning of camp, if you would have told me, okay, the 53-man roster, how does it look? I would have been pretty firm with there's about, one roster spot up for grabs with everything that we knew.
Mm-hmm.
Now I think it's more about what do they have to do to cover some potential injuries and suspensions and not showing up, and how are they going to handle all of it? That's where I did same thing with Blake Bell. Maybe you say to Blake Bell, hey, we're not going to put you on the 53. You're going to be a free agent. You can sign with the team, later. Or I don't know, because I'm sold on four running backs. I'm sold on 7 wide receivers, 9 offensive linemen, and then outside of that, I think a lot of it depends upon fluctuation of who and can they manipulate the 53.
See, I think defensively, you have to play it by ear. If Chris Jones is there, on cut down day, then okay, Danny Shelton, you're man number 53. You're on or you're off. I think he's actually got a pretty good chance to make it anyway. But whoever you want to include in that defensive line room, if Chris Jones is there, we're keeping someone. We're not going to keep you. If he is there, we're going to cut you. That's essentially what it comes down to. It's a tough spot for the player to be in, but team's got to do what the team's got to do. Offensively, I actually disagree about the running backs. I think you're keeping 3 and Clyde's one of them. I still think the smartest thing you could do with Clyde would be to move him, would be to trade him. I don't think anyone's going to take him. I've moved on that opinion. I don't think anyone's going to take Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He's going to end up starting the year on the roster, as is obviously Isaiah Pacheco, as is obviously Jerick McKinnon. And I think you waive both Deneric Prince and you waive LaMichael P. Ryan.
Because here's the thing about running backs, too. What have we talked about? What has been one of the main stories as we've talked about football throughout the spring and the summer as we get loaded up for the start of the season? The value of the running back, which the perceived value of the running back in front offices everywhere is not very high. We can find one. We'll find one in the 7th round. We'll find one flipping burgers. We'll find one from our practice squad. We'll find a guy that we can plug in. And so the Chiefs are in a spot where if they only want to carry 3 and somebody gets hurt, promote from the practice squad, because I don't think they're going to have any trouble getting Deneric Prince into the practice squad.
I agree.
If he doesn't make the 53.
Or LaMichael
P. Ryan or Jerry and Ely. And I think the Chiefs would be comfortable with them, either any of those 3 guys being RB4 in case of an emergency.
I agree. And if you kept 2, because you get the expanded practice squad now, it's 16 players now. Let's say you keep 2. You keep 2 and you don't keep any wide receivers. Hey, we got 7 wide receivers. We're just going to stick with that number. And we'll keep 2 running backs on the practice squad instead. You get 3 elevations for every player on the practice squad without having them count, or you can keep them on the practice squad and elevate them 3 times. That is 6 weeks then of P. Ryan or Prince that you can elevate without having to put them on the active roster. That to me would make a lot of sense for that 4th running back spot.
Do you how many guys can you protect on the practice squad?
I think it's 2.
It's either 2 or 4.
I think it's 2.
So, and maybe that's the route you go, that you hope that, hey, they clear waivers and then you can go and they can protect you. Because, I still, I would not do this, but I think the Chiefs are going to keep three quarterbacks on the 53-man roster.
Too.
Now, it helps that it doesn't count towards your active roster. That, if, what hits the fan, then you still get all 3. But it does limit one of your 53-man roster spots.
Yeah.
But it goes back to what you guys have said. How many times does a guy get picked up off of waivers?
Almost never.
So maybe you put Bouchel on the practice squad and you protect him every single week.
I think most teams are more willing to keep the guys that they already have. And Shane Bouchel, the Chiefs kept him for a reason, but we've got our guy who we already like. So we're just going to stick with our guy. I think most teams would probably approach it that way. So I think it's going to end up being 7 wide receivers, 3 running backs, 4 tight ends.
So you think the offense is a lot easier to figure out and postulate?
Yeah, I would think so.
Number.
Because you end up with 3 quarterbacks. I would say 3 running backs gives you 6, 4 tight ends gives you 10, 7 receivers gives you 17, and then you keep 7 wide receivers.
They're keeping 7. If there's no doubt in my mind, they're keeping 7.
Especially if they're running guys like Rashee Rice out there on special teams. Like, they're not. They're keeping
7.
And then 9 offensive linemen. That gives you to 26. That's right around an even split. You obviously have to keep the specialists involved. So
26, 24.
So that's 29. And then you have 24 spots for your defense. So that's how I would break it down for the offense. Or it's a mix of how I would do it and how I think Andy Reid will approach it. Because we know he gets final say.
Yes. The comments from Steve Spagnuolo about Chris Jones saying he always comes in shape. He goes, that's not what we're worried about. He always comes in shape. But then he said, but that's not football shape. That's the difference. And he won't be playing. Every day that comes before, I don't even know if he would play 80% of the snaps right now. If they play 50 snaps, I don't think there's any way he's playing 40 of the 50 at this point in time. And that's what normally he does.
Yeah.
And that is now where you're getting into it affects this season. And that's, I think, that's where Mahomes and the rest of the Chiefs players and your teammates start to now get involved a little bit more. The money is the money, but when your money situation then affects our current team, I have no problem him holding out. I don't. That's what you want to do. Hey, the reason why Kelsey took less money and the reason why Mahomes took less money is so that Chris Jones could get money. Just so happens the Chiefs, are also don't want to pay that kind of money. Like that's the whole reason why Mahomes took less money. Like a part of me is even upset at the Chiefs that like, look, I took less money so you could pay Chris Jones market value. Like that's, I wonder if Mahomes is not thinking that at all. Hey, I'm only making, $46 million to the cap, and other guys like Rodgers and Watson and all these guys are making 60. You can pay Chris Jones.
I'm sure there's some frustration on everybody's part. I don't think you'd ever get any of them on the record, to be honest, about in which direction that frustration lies. But I'm guessing there's probably a little bit of both ways. The longer this goes on, the more you think, hey, man, like you might be asking for a number that they can't give you or that you're maybe not going to get from anyone else. And maybe you should just come and ball out, bet on yourself, and go get a bag in free agency next year if that's how you feel. I do wonder, because I think that's starting to become the attitude of some in the Chiefs kingdom. I don't know if that's how the Chiefs locker room feels, but I could see some of that start to seep into people's thought processes the longer this goes on and the more he decides to troll random fans on Twitter.
8 weeks.
I still think he will be back before then. I do. But I will offer this. There's a part of me that has a lot of morbid curiosity about what the defense looks like if he doesn't play week 1.
And no Amenahu, yeah, not great.
Probably, unless it is. Because all of a sudden...
What do you mean?
The Lions are predicted by everyone. The entire football world, outside of me, I think, thinks the Lions, even if they're not good as a team, are going to have one of the best offenses in the league. Correct. Got a bunch of pass catchers. They've got an offensive coordinator who next year will be a head coach. Ben Johnson will be a head coach in 2024. Everybody expects them to have a great offense. For real.
Ben Johnson, the guy who got suspended for steroids for winning the 100? That Ben Johnson?
No. Jesus Christ. No. No. Apologies. Anyway, no. Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator of the Detroit Lions. What happens if the Chiefs win 41-17? What happens if they sack Jared Goff 4 times week 1? What happens if the Lions run for 2.8 yards a carry? Then what happens with Chris Jones? Hey, you know what? George Karlaftis looks pretty damn good. He's not just a good player. He's the number 1 edge rusher now. Hey, Keandre Coburn, he can play. And he actually pairs really well with Derek Nagy. Or maybe he pairs really well with Turk Wharton. Yeah, he can really go. We've heard nothing but good reports about Keandre Coburn. He played a ton in that game on Saturday this past weekend. All right, Chris, ball's in your court. Because we figured out we actually can play up front. And you know what else? Even if it's not just the defensive lineman, maybe this is finally an opportunity to use Leo Chanel the best way possible for Leo Chanel, which is put your head down and run as fast as you can. He's one of the best testing linebackers in the history of the NFL draft combine. He is at his best attacking downhill, not lateral. Get him downhill. Maybe that is how you replace some of that pass rush of Chris Jones, is you get that guy more involved on some interior rushes from the second level. What if they find out a way to make it work without him? That is where I have a lot of morbid curiosity.
Here's the other thing, too. Not as though they face all bums in the first half of the season, but They don't face the Bills till the second half of the season. They don't face the Bengals till the second half of the season. They don't face Jalen Hurts and the Eagles until November 20th. They don't face Justin Herbert till week 7. I mean, look, Trevor Lawrence is not a day at the beach. Their first road game, week 2. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers, week 4, although mobility-wise, not what he used to be.
But
Still,
you don't need him against that offensive line.
The offensive line for the Jets is the biggest issue.
Yeah,
there.
not a great offensive line for the Jets, not a great offensive line for the Vikings in week 5. Like, yeah, like at a certain point, and it's a calculation you have to make, you lose value to your team if you are not there for your team. And you run that risk of that team deciding, hey, we can do this without you, because we had a player who thought he was indispensable, and we went ahead and we traded him, and we won the Super Bowl anyway last year. Don't think we can do it again?
Do you think that would impact his free agent dollars?
Probably. That I guess, let me ask what you mean by that. What would...
If the Chiefs are fine, or the Chiefs are serviceable without him on defense. Because I don't think that'll affect his free agent money.
No, I actually don't either.
What that does is then that hurts the Chiefs, or that hurts Chris Jones's negotiating number with the Chiefs. And if that's the case, see, here's the there's a real big part of me that says, if Chris Jones doesn't sign this deal with the Chiefs right now, all of this holding out, there's a decent chance that he won't make up. If he doesn't play, let's say he misses games, okay? Like, are you really
I don't see how he doesn't at this point. I mean, especially if he doesn't report this week, I don't think he plays week 1 regardless.
So and if you're not there, you're looking at, $2 million and $3 million there. Will you make that up with your free agent deal, as opposed to, like, I'm talking missing multiple weeks? Like, I'm really dug in that type of deal.
Well, asking if he'll make the same amount of money come next year.
Yeah. Well, you got to think about it. If whatever he's going to make has to offset the fines that he's got this year.
Yeah, it will. It definitely will.
Compared to what the Chiefs were going to offer him.
Yeah.
I don't know. If the Chiefs are offering him $28 million,
dude, Ryan Poles right now is like sweating and shaking, thinking about giving him the biggest contract in Bears history. I guarantee you. I guarantee you.
We'll get a quick timeout. Coming up, we're going to hear from Matt Nagy and Steve Spagnuolo here on 580 Sports Talk. We will get to the kind of the biggest news of the day involving a Kansas City team, and that is that the Royals releasing some photos and videos of both North Kansas City's new potential stadium and the East Village one. So we'll get to those. So you got to, if you haven't, go to the Royals Twitter handle. They tweeted them out. Let us know what you like better, what video. We're going to give you our take, North Kansas City or the East Village. We'll let you know. But right now, we're going to hear from Steve Spagnuolo and the OC, Matt Nagy. First up is Spags, because he does get into a little bit with Chris Jones. Here's what Steve Spagnuolo had to say to the media today.
What have you seen lately from Shamari?
Yeah, listen, we're kind of force-feeding him a lot of things. You probably noticed he's in a lot of spots there. He has kind of earned it and deserved it the way he's played in training camp. I think the veterans have some confidence in him. You know, we'll see how it progresses. You've got trying to get some other guys healthy and back, and then we'll see where all the moving parts go. But for right now, listen, he's played safety, he's played some nickel, he's played some dime, and that's good to see for a young guy. Yeah, literally. Yeah, I'm not typically. I'm trying to, going back to even when Trent a year ago. We didn't play him at nickel right away because he wanted to kind of get settled. Then he got hurt and he came back, but he didn't get force-fed it. LJ, I'm trying to remember LJ's first year. If I remember correctly, he played corner. He got hurt too. And when he came back, we put him at nickel. So he's been the one. Shamari's probably been the one guy. Honey Badger did it when we first got here, but he was a veteran. He played them all. But it's a real impressive thing for him to have the confidence in people that he can play in a bunch of different positions.
Coach Merritt had mentioned that you guys are trying to figure out who's going to be that third cornerback for you between Watson and Williams. Looks like Williams might have a leg up now. Just where do you?
Yeah, I don't know that it goes like that. It seems it went like that today. Play by play. But that's kind of been their MO. I mean, the two of them kind of battled back all last year, and we rotated them in some. We may still do the same thing. We'll see once we get to the 53 and know who we have and who's healthy. Hopefully get through this game healthy and then try to put it together for something against Detroit.
Coach, what do you expect or what do you want to see this weekend when you have your final game?
Yeah.
And then the cuts are different. It's just one big slice. So what is it you want to see?
Big cuts. Well, listen, I'm hopeful for all of the guys we I'll talk about the guys that we don't keep, that play well enough that something happens for them later on down the road. I mean, this is a real business. It's real life for these guys, and it's a job, right? Nobody likes to lose their job. So hopefully the guys that don't make it, because you can't keep everybody, have an opportunity somewhere else. That's always the hope, because we have some really good guys here and some good football players that maybe just numbers-wise we can't keep. And for the guys that are going to be here, number one, be healthy. Number two, do the fundamental things right. We got to continue to do that. I think the tackling's been okay. I'd like things to get faster and more violent as we get closer to a real game. We got a heck of a challenge coming in here September 7th. Yes. Yeah. And we need to be ready for that. So we'll use this game to get ready for that opener.
What's the conversation like as far as, between you and Colin, Andy, and Brett, when you've got the defensive line group that's got so many questions, right?
Yeah.
Since Chris isn't here, Turk is still getting back, that's one of the guys banging out the seasoning. Is that one of the tougher groups to figure out?
Yeah, it is, because you're always looking for continuity, right? And continuity comes with reps and being around each other and together, and we haven't had that. A lot of moving pieces right now, but and sometimes we've talked about this before. Sometimes it takes your first quarter of the season to figure out who you are and what you have. Now along the way, you hope you're winning games, but it might take us a little while to figure all that out.
Is there a guy from that group that's taken a step that maybe you weren't expecting possibly from the time camp started?
Yeah, I honestly can't say that. Danny Shelton sticks out because I know what he did with his weight and how prepared he got himself. But that's back at the beginning of training camp. But all those guys have kind of been in there grinding away. Been some good plays and some not so good plays, and somewhere down the road he'll have to make a decision on that crew.
What about Felix?
Felix is coming along well. I saw him. He went back in, but he got dinged something. I'm not sure what happened. We haven't got together with Rick, so we don't really know on that right now. But I think he's progressed pretty well. I mean, there was a time there when he had to play a lot of catch up because of all the time he missed in the OTAs. I think he got himself caught up. Still little things you can tell there that he's not used to, or it takes a little bit of thinking. And hopefully when the thinking gets less and the fast playing gets more, he becomes more of a player for us.
You mentioned Danny. What have you seen from him?
Well, I guess when I was saying that, because I really can't, all those guys kind of are about right in the middle there, but I did like the fact that Danny's an intelligent football player. He's also what you probably don't see is he's also a really good leader. Like, he's into everything. I mean, he'll be over there pushing teammates during special teams when he's not involved in the special team. That's a good quality to have. Loved having him around here last year, even though he was on the practice squad. So all those things we like. It's just the play's got to show up, and somebody's got to surface for us to decide which way we're going to go.
Couple more. I know Sam, Nate, and okay, 4 more. Go ahead, Sam.
Steve, I know that Chris is a veteran, he's been in your system for a long time, but at what point do you start to worry about his preparedness for the season?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Chris is any different than any other player that misses the entire camp and then has to play. It's tough. I mean, you certainly can't expect that particular person, as good as Chris is, to play every down. And then you worry about injury. Is the body ready? Chris always keeps himself in good shape, but football shape's different. So hopefully we can get him back, right? And then when that happens, we just have to figure out how to go about it.
Steve, with Malik Herring, how has he maybe gone from getting experience last year to what he may be showing in these first games?
Yeah, so the biggest compliment for Malik is that we've done the same thing with him and asking him to play a bunch of different positions. I mean, he plays inside tackle, even on some first and second down plays. He's certainly out there at end. So that's a compliment right there. If you asked him, I don't know if you guys got a chance to talk to him after the game, but he would have liked that a couple of plays back, because he really had an opportunity to make some big plays for us. But I think normally he would do that. He was just off a little bit. And so if he can rally this week and make those kind of plays, I think that'd be good for him.
Does Jones's absence change how you approach the 53-man roster construction, maybe having to keep an extra interior guy there for the start of the season?
Yeah, that'd be a better question for Brett as they figure out the numbers. I've just got to look at it in terms of who's available for us to play when we get to game day 48. That's probably a better question for Brett.
Last one, Tom.
Kind of goes along that line, but if Chris isn't here right now, Charles is going to be out for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Do you have, if this is the group of guys you have minus Chris and Charles, are you need someone else? Or you guys?
Well, the minus Charles part of it, I can honestly say I've gone down that road. I'm helpful on the other one. I mean, hopeful on the Chris one. Now, should that not be the case, then we basically would be function about how we were now, minus Charles.
Is that enough?
It'll have to be. We'll have to find a way to do it. It'd be, when things like this happens, you kind of play it off a little bit as if we got hurt in the game. Very similar. We have a little bit of advantage of knowing ahead of time, but we'll stay hopeful. Well,
so that is what Steve Spagnuolo had to say. What about Matt Nagy? He spoke to the media as well.
More opportunities. What strides have you seen him taking that has made him earn those?
Yeah, you know what? For me, it's been really neat watching him grow, coming in last year, not knowing him, and just seeing where he's been as a player, as a person. Learning this offense has certainly helped. Being in that room with Pat. So now, I mean, the off season, the preseason games, it's all about opportunities. And Coach has a great way of just going through those type of battles at all positions. And I think the competition brings out the best in everybody. And you see that with Shane. He gets a chance last week to do that and goes in and plays well. And you love being able to see guys have success when behind the scenes, they put in all this work and they do all this stuff behind the scenes in practice all last couple of years. And now to get an opportunity, he's played well.
Coach, who's your fastest wide receiver?
Wow. Put me on the spot.
We used to always talk about Tyreek and McCall.
Yeah.
So now we have a group. We've seen some speed in the preseason. So who's the fastest?
Well, I can tell you who's going to say he's the fastest. MVS. He's going to say that. I know that for sure. But there's probably about 2 or 3 other guys in there that are going to be right there with him. So I don't know football fast versus the clock fast at the combine on the track, et cetera. But I think we have some good speed out there that can take the top off. It can affect defensive coverages with the different types of cover 2 and cover 4 shell they want to play. And Tyreek, you just mentioned Tyreek. I mean, that's another level speed that this league really doesn't have. Some guys may say that, but Tyreek's different level. So we really like the guys we have and the speed we have.
Matt, in terms of getting him ready for the Lions game and the rest of the games, is it important to you that Pacheco play against Cleveland on Saturday?
Yeah, I think in the end, when Coach gets together with us and talks through all the depth chart stuff and who's playing, who's not playing, who's doing this, who's doing that. I think the guys would tell you, Pacheco would probably tell you, yeah, it's important to get hit a few times. But there's always you want to make sure that, for him not being hit yet in practice per se and going in there for the first time. We've all seen him get hit pretty good. I think he can handle several hits. So whatever coach ends up doing, it doesn't affect him really either way for week one. But I always think it's good to get a couple hits in early before you get to the season.
Prince is a guy who at times during camp, when those days Clyde was out, he was running with the ones guys. And now it looks like he's kind of at the bottom of the depth chart. Is something happened with him, something you saw or didn't see with him?
No, nothing's happened. I think early on, you want to be able to see, especially in OTAs, you get guys that come in and there's no pads and it's more passing. So you want to be able to see what can he do in the pass game. And now naturally you get back into whether it's the start of training camp till now, there's movement throughout. There's different guys in all different positions that get opportunities. And as a rookie, the volume starts to hit you a little bit and it can slow you down. And I think for him, that's not the case as much as it is just the fact that we have a great room of running backs. There's great competition and we're trying to give all the guys opportunity in different spots, which Deneric's doing a really good job of learning this offense and just continuing to grow.
Do you even foresee, if everyone's healthy, a game where you need 7 wide receivers or you use 7 wide receivers in a game?
For me in my position, I look at those guys and we look at them that they're all talented in different ways. And, Coach Reed and Brett will get together and talk through every week, whether it's, 5, 6, 7 guys and whatever it is, that's what we roll with. So that's how our wide receiver coaches are, myself, et cetera. Those guys, that is a very competitive room with a lot of different types of talent. So whatever they end up telling us we have on that particular Sunday, we'll roll with.
Just to follow up on that, running backs will say that, hey, the more carries they get, they feel like they get into a rhythm. I just wondered if you thought that was the same for wide receivers.
So some guys, they want the football early, it gets them going. You get a couple catches. But I think the receiver position's maybe a little bit different. In some ways, running back, they just want the ball. They want to get hit. They want to get their legs going, get protection going. Wide receiver wise, they don't care. I mean, there's so many times where a guy doesn't get recognized, but he does such a great job of clearing a guy out on a post route, opening up a deep cross. And so if you're doing that on tape, you might not have a catch, but you're getting recognized in meetings. And so whatever it is, if you're helping the team win, we want you on the team.
Speaking of that sort of rule, what do you see from Justin Watson?
Same thing that we've seen since the day he's gotten here. This guy here last year, somebody that knows where to be at every play, he's gonna play fast. He's in the right spots at the right time, and so now again for him, it's just a matter of continuing to grow with the timing with Pat, certain routes, making sure that Pat and him are seeing things the same way. And again, all of those guys are a little bit different. And I think that's what makes that room so special is they're not all the same. They're all very different. And he brings a great element of speed, knowledge, and experience to our offense.
Seems like you guys have some tough decisions to make, wide receivers 5 through 8. How do you wrap your head around that? And what role will you play in that process with Brett and Andy?
Yeah, I'll give my honest opinion on all those guys when the time comes. I think it's been a really good camp for those guys. There's some guys that have come in and shown that they've been able to take the playbook on right away, not make the same mistakes twice. And that's one of the things that I mentioned before is we look for that. Like who keeps making the same mistakes? Who has the ability, do you see a ceiling with them with where they're at talent-wise, or do they have the ability to grow and develop? But one thing they've certainly done, and that's a credit to Coach and Veach, is brought in a lot of really good guys that in the end, I wish everybody can make this team. You do, and that's your goal as a coach, is to develop them so that if they don't make this team, it's a small fraternity and they're able to go somewhere and help somebody else out and be thankful for their opportunity here.
That's what Matt Nagy had to say. I really don't think he wants to keep all 90 guys on the team.
It's a nice thing to say. It's a nice
thought. Nice thing to say.
I'd love to keep everyone except that idiot Cornell Powell. Hope he doesn't go anywhere. Like, you can't say that.
Why you single out Cornell Powell?
Why didn't he single out Cornell Powell?
It's the exact opposite of the Homer Simpson approach to coaching football. All right, now to the favorite part of this, the cuts. You showed real hustle. That's why it was so hard to cut you.
Coming up next, we'll give you our take on which renderings that probably won't look like the actual stadium we like better here on 580 Sports Talk. The Kansas City Royals have released some video and some renderings of both the East Village and North Kansas City. Which one do you like better? Because they're very different. They really are.
I like the ballpark, the downtown ballpark concept better than I like the North Kansas City concept.
Yeah.
Even though it sure feels like the North Kansas City concept is more fleshed out. Like
way more.
There's way more stuff around it.
If you were just judging on renderings with everything, the big benefit for the North Kansas City, if this is what it's going to look like. Now, renderings don't mean a whole lot.
Don't tell KU fans that.
But did you guys ever see the renderings of New Globe Life Park?
Yeah.
Yes. I remember.
They were awesome.
They were beautiful.
They were amazing. What is it now?
It looks like a tough shed.
It's basically Reynolds wrap over a building, or aluminum foil over a building. Not Reynolds wrap, aluminum foil over a building. Not great. North Kansas City offers more because of you got more space.
Mm-hmm.
The whole like pond there, and there's like a park right next to it. There, you can it's not as cramped.
Yeah.
Like if I were to say just what looks like a better situation, it is North Kansas City. It is.
If I had to guess, and I don't know, I haven't talked to John Sherman, I haven't talked to the architects. If I had to guess, that is explicitly part of the plan. That one of these renderings looks like a fully fleshed out ballpark village, and the other one looks like a stadium that was dropped downtown.
The other thing too, I'm on board with what they're calling it, the Crown District. I'm actually cool with that. I like it. I think that's cool. It's kind of like the Battery, or it's like it's got a name. I like that. I like Crown District. The problem with both of these is that they don't have crown vision, or you got a crown on top of the the big giant jumbotron.
It is the most iconic scoreboard in sports,
and that's why you have to whatever they do and wherever they go, they got to keep that. You got to keep the fountains, and you got to keep crown vision.
Yes,
I don't care what else you do.
Otherwise, is it even a Kansas City ballpark? Like that's the thing that bothered me. I remember when I saw the first renderings of it a couple of years ago, like the first general idea, and these are kind of along the same lines. But I looked at it and said, that ballpark could be anywhere. There's only one place Kauffman Stadium can be. And only one place with all those flourishes. It can only be Kansas City. Don't build me a boilerplate, retro style ballpark. Build me something that says, this is Kansas City. This is of the city. This is of its place. That's what I hope ends up being built.
I will say this in terms of the actual stadium and the rendering of each that the Royals put out there publicly. I don't just dislike the North Kansas City one. I hate it. I think it looks like garbage. I think it looks like George Jetson nonsense, and I would be very upset if that's what they made the stadium look like.
They've got a lot more room in North Kansas City than they do in downtown Kansas City. But the whole process of all of this is to have this, and the Sherman family has said this, this is to make money. They want to make money year round. Where do you have the best chance of making money year round?
For our YouTube viewers, we are showing them now the North Kansas City ballpark.
Mm-hmm.
That is the first of two that we'll throw up there onto the screen. Jetsons is kind of a funny way to put it, but it does. It feels like overly futuristic.
Like the thing in right field, I know it's a shade or whatever. It looks like a monorail. Like, oh, sweet, we're about to go stop at the whatever it's called, the Contemporary at Disney World after we get off the monorail.
Now I'm going to put up the East Village ballpark also on the YouTube.
They don't have that one. At least has some fountains there.
Yeah,
which is fine. You got to have fountains, and you got to have crown vision.
You can make crown vision much more easy. You can put a crown on top of the scoreboard much more easily in the East Village rendering.
But your corporate partners and the people who are paying $3,800 a month for studio apartments behind center field wouldn't be able to see into the stadium if you put crown vision behind center field. So, swings and roundabouts.
A lot of this, it's to make money and to generate the most that you possibly can. And that's why I still say if the Royals want to make money, you put it downtown, not North Kansas City downtown. You put it downtown. The song is truth. Things will be great when you go downtown. All right. There's so much more you can do in North Kansas City, but I don't think you can make as much money. There's not as many shops and buildings and stuff like that.
However you do it, you got to make sure there's public transit in place. We were talking about this off the air, how laughably bad public transit in Kansas City can be. How like the streetcar goes like three places along one like straight line and is never in service. You got to find a way to get people from the suburbs, from the Kansas City area to downtown, to the ballpark, ways that make sense. And it will be a success. Like I love the idea of a downtown ballpark is tantalizing because it is fun to be able to go and then go out to one of the bars or one of the restaurants. Problem is that a lot of that development ends up either being owned by the team or purchased by the team, and it becomes kind of soulless because that's what happened in lower downtown where Coors Field is in Denver.
I was going to say, in terms of making money, if it's the city making money, you want it downtown. If it's about the Royals making money, you want it in North KC.
They just have so much more room in North KC.
Right.
I don't care.
No, I really don't.
I don't care.
They're not that far apart.
No, they're just across the river. They're like 4 miles apart. If that, I think even.
I just Google mapped it from the greater East Village to North Kansas City. It's an 8-minute drive.
Yeah. That's why to me and if you are and this is just from what I've seen a lot of, if you're anti giving money to the Royals, if you're Jackson County, Clay County will. Like they're gonna get the money.
It's like what we talked about yesterday, right?
Clay
There's
County
always someone willing to spend
Clay
for it.
County will give you the money. They will.
They'll market every table.
Just like that's why the Chiefs are going to get a free stadium when they pit both the state of Kansas and the state of Missouri against each other. They get a free 99 for a guy who's worth $3 billion.
Yep.
Yeah. None of these will. Just keep Crown Vision. Keep the fountains. I'm with you 100%, Dan. Coming up, we will get to our Chiefs over-unders here on 580 Sports Talk. 580 Sports Talk, hour number 2 here on this Tuesday. Jake LeBon, Brennan Dworzynski, Dan Lucero with you. Thank you so much for stopping by on another absolute scorcher of an afternoon here in the capital city of Kansas. Good news! It's not 100 degrees.
Brendan, something you'd like to share with the class?
You know, I was just thinking about Jake never starts the hour the same way.
No.
Like sometimes it's 3 o'clock hour. Welcome to 580 Sports Talk. Happy Victory Monday.
Keeps us on our toes.
Yeah.
Dan and I generally, if we are starting an hour, do it the same way. The way I do it, hey now, that's a nod to a buddy of mine who I did radio in college with. Dan does his let's get it. Do it the same way.
Let's get it. Yeah.
There was one time, I just brought this up 2 weeks ago, in fact. I don't remember if it was last year or this spring or when. I thought going into the 5 o'clock hour, what if I changed mine? What if I introduced the hour a different way? And I don't even remember what I said.
It was bad.
But it was awkward. It was bad. I thought it was a good idea.
It was like halfway between like the old Seinfeld, hello, and some other
la.
Yeah, it was. I just watched that episode the other night. Yeah, it was bad. It was really bad. So as you said it, you're like 3 o'clock hour. I
didn't say 3 o'clock
or whatever
hour.
you said.
I said 580 Sports Talk. Welcome back.
However, it popped into my head.
It was better than what Brendan tried.
Yeah, man,
that
it was
one
so
ill-fated
bad.
time.
It derailed the entire. When Dan had to replay the intro, we had to redo the whole thing. It was rough.
Well, we do have lots more to get to, including starting the 4 o'clock hour, probably different as the 3 o'clock hour. We have a random question. I have a very important question to ask you guys. I had this decision to make yesterday, so I need your opinion on this. We will also talk a little Royals baseball with some of the thoughts on the renderings, both in North Kansas City and in the East Village. Matt LeMar will join us from Royals Review. Also talk a little Bobby Witt extension. What kind of numbers are we looking at there? As the Royals lost yesterday to the A's. Not because of Bobby Witt. He hit home run number 25. That is great. But we've got Royals baseball tonight and then a day game tomorrow, 2:37 first pitch, 2:37 specifically, 2 o'clock pregame coverage here tomorrow. So a very short, if not a show at all tomorrow.
You'll hear very little from us.
Yes.
Shout out to West Coast Baseball.
Day game West Coast Baseball, 2:37.
It is a bizarre time. I will agree with you on that. 37 is not usually a number I don't know. Like you think of times that end in 5 or 0 or quarters of the hour or whatever. No, usually 37. But
yeah, very, very interesting. But right now it is the 3 o'clock hour, and we're going to go with our Chiefs over and unders. We went with the two big ones yesterday. Chris Jones, who now says he can sit out till week 8, according to his Twitter handle. He has the money to do so, and Patrick Mahomes. Today, though, we are going to go with Travis Kelce and Nick Bolton. We're first going to start with Travis Kelce. Over under 1,075 yards for Travis Kelce.
I will go over with that. I still think he's going to end up getting, if not a majority of the targets from Patrick Mahomes this year. I still think he's going to be your top receiver. He has gone over 1,000 yards. How many years in a row is it now? 6 years, 7 years in a row.
Do you want if he gets 1,000 or what he's already accomplished?
What he's already done?
7.
Yeah, I mean 7 straight 1,000-yard seasons, and 6 of the 7 have been over 1075.
Correct.
2017 he was at a paltry 1038 on 83 receptions
with 8 touchdowns,
with 8 scores. Yeah, so I would take the over there. I don't know if it's necessarily a safe bet, but I feel like it's a pretty safe bet.
Does it seem like he's slowing down?
Not really.
I mean, we haven't seen a ton of him in preseason, but does he look slower in the preseason? Are you hearing any talk about him being slower or him being worn down? Or
hell, if anything, he's feistier than ever.
Yeah,
boy, the Kelce brothers are just running hot right now.
Yeah, Jason gotten a little
cheap shotting people.
Yeah, blindsided somebody.
Both of them have issued public apologies.
I'm starting to understand why the Chiefs don't do joint practices, because those are just a recipe for full-scale brawls.
Yeah.
The Packers got in fights. They had 2 different joint practices, Bengals and Patriots. They got in multiple fights.
Yeah,
both
makes
times.
no sense. Waste of time. Andy Reid, yeah, waste of time. By the way, if you're going on the theory of he has a, more receiving yards, then less, then more, then less, then more, then less, then more, he will have less than 1,300 yards. Also, if you want to go with he is all pro 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, he'll be all pro 2 this year for going by trends.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting that he alternates all that. Man, 4 first-team All-Pros and 3 second-team All-Pros in consecutive years with 8 straight Pro Bowls is pretty wild.
Yeah.
Quite a resume.
I'm going to take the over because I think he'll get over 1,000 yards. The only way he truly doesn't is if he gets hurt. Like, there's a way that you can say like Patrick Mahomes with certain yardage and stuff like that. Same thing with a lot of people. But if he plays all 17 games or even 16 games, he's getting over it. He's getting over 1,100 yards.
In football, declines can come very quickly and they can come without warning. But given what we've seen from Kelce as he's gone into his 30s, where it feels like he keeps getting better, not just like staying the same version of himself. It felt like last year maybe was his best year. I wouldn't bet on the decline beginning in 2023. There will come a day when Travis Kelce is no longer the best tight end of the National Football League and an automatic 1,000 plus, 1,100 plus yards. I do not think 2023 is that day. So yeah, I will go over.
All righty. What about touchdowns? Got to get to 10. That's so many touchdowns, you guys. 10 touchdowns is so many. Here's his history, okay? 12, 9, 11, 5, 10, 8.
I'd count 4 the year before that as well. I mean, he was a first-team All-Pro in 2016. He was a first-team All-Pro with 4 touchdowns.
Okay, ready?
That's unbelievable.
Ready? With Patrick Mahomes as his QB, 10, 5, 11, 9, and 12.
10 is a lot. I know we talked yesterday about maybe the Chiefs being more willing in short yardage situations. Because how many of those touchdowns for Kelce last year and really in the last couple have been like 1 yard touchdowns, 2 yard touchdowns?
But a lot of them too, he's yakking it, man. He's running away from people, smushing Derwin James to the ground and running into the end zone.
10's a big number, and touchdown numbers can be really volatile for receivers. I think I'd lean under. That maybe feels like
remember he had a 12 touchdown season last year. Had 4 touchdowns in 1 game.
Right.
His per 17 game average while playing with Patrick Mahomes, 9.987.
Hit me with the over.
Under. Too volatile.
Yeah.
This is another one. What was the stat yesterday? We said we weren't going to touch interceptions. Yeah. I would not bet your money on this prop. I would not do it.
I'd totally bet your guys' money. It's not my money. I'll bet your money.
I'd rather bet your money on a better bet. If you're saying I will give you $10 to bet on something,
pockets, Jake.
No, I would not touch that one.
I wouldn't either.
Too volatile.
I wouldn't either. Do you think he will lead the NFL in receptions or receiving touchdowns? Obviously, you don't think he's going to lead in receiving touchdowns if you're not taking the over 9.5, unlike moi here. I still don't think that he will lead the NFL in touchdowns.
Plus 140, 14-1 odds. Not taking that?
No.
$10 to win 140?
No.
I wouldn't either.
Justin Jefferson still alive?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he's the best wide receiver in the NFL.
I think he's gotten to that point where he's the undisputed. I mean, not that there aren't any other really good ones, but Jefferson's played the last 2 years, I think speaks for itself.
If you're buying into the Jets, I think Garrett Wilson's an interesting one there. He's probably up there in terms of some of the more talented guys Rodgers has ever played with. Jefferson, obviously. Devontae Adams might have 200 targets this year.
Yeah.
So
there ain't nobody else to throw to.
No, he's.
What are you talking about? You got Hunter Renfrow.
Yeah, they got no one else to throw to.
Yeah, Hunter Renfrow, man.
Third down, 6 yard slant. That's your guy. Any other down?
All I know is I still can't get over the fact that it was Devontae Adams, Darren Waller were so mad at Hunter Renfrow for ordering like a regular Uber X one time, and they all had to like cram in there. And here's Hunter Renfrow just happy as can be, and then Devontae Adams on his Instagram account was just eviscerating Hunter Renfrow
It was like his first week at camp too. Yeah, the next time I say something nice about someone who went to Clemson, it'll be the first time. So I'm out on Hunter Renfrow.
I like Hunter Renfrow.
I've got no love lost for the Clemson Tigers. Open your books, Dabo.
You're not a Taj Boyd fan?
Oh, buddy, I freaking hate Taj Boyd. I turn off the ACC.
What?
I will never.
What?
I will never
Why?
respect Taj Boyd. Never.
Why? Because they got
Blake Mitchell owns you.
Who's Blake Mitchell?
Played quarterback in South Carolina. Steven Garcia owns you too, Taj.
Why is it hatred?
I hate Clemson.
What about
Number 2 on my
Christian
hate list.
Watkins?
Who? Christian Watkins?
Wilkins?
Wilkins?
Yeah, Wilkins.
No, fraud.
Yeah, plays for the
Ben
Dolphins.
Boulware, that dude who was sticking his finger in dudes' butts for a few years. Nah, every one of them a dirtbag. That's where the nasty man went. Nothing.
Tells me all I need to know.
All I need to know.
Nasty man.
There. You know what? Can I say something real fast? You know what's interesting?
I don't know.
Even-
I feel like you're going to say something ridiculous.
It's just a comment about the nasty man. Even before all that news broke, even before it came to light that he was allegedly.
For those of you who don't know, he's
Deshaun Watson.
referring to Deshaun Watson.
He never got invited back to Clemson. Like, they brought Trevor Lawrence back like 3 months after he graduated to come show up at like one of their first games of the year. Taj Boyd's been back a million times. Now he's in the media too. CJ Spiller, they had all their former players back. Deshaun Watson never got an invite back.
I don't know if he will either.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Is he not in their Hall of Fame?
I'm not sure. I probably would have not had a lot of fanfare if they inducted him, though. Just interesting. Just thought about a program that once bought a national championship and had to, surrender it.
Wait, bought a national championship?
1981.
They still have that national championship.
Yeah.
Well, they should have had to surrender it.
Now you're just flinging it. from
Open
the
your
hip,
books,
bro.
Dabo.
Oh yeah, I forgot your team.
Let's check the
Central-
checkbook.
Sprinkle some allegedlys on this entire conversation.
Yeah, allegedly.
I forget that you're amongst.
Let me see your correspondence with the New Spring Church, Dabo.
No,
allegedly.
There we go. I need you to.
Maybe there's nothing there.
I
It's
think
not
you
alleged.
also need to mention that
he's asking questions.
Brendan also thinks that Central Florida has a national championship.
That is correct. It's on their stadium. I'm just doing my own research on Clemson football.
Okay.
All right.
Let's go with Nick Bolton. All right. Nick Bolton. I'm just going to go and say this. Over under 160 tackles.
Who? We're talking total tackles here?
Total tackles. He set the record last year. He's a tackling machine.
He is, I looked at 2 different books, one onshore, one off. He is, regardless of the number, second highest or second shortest odds to lead the NFL in tackles at multiple sports books.
He had 180 last year. I'm going to give him a little bit less this year. I'm going to say over under 160. That's so many. 180 in tackles is so many, by the way, you guys. That's so many.
Even if he has a, if he has a similar tackle to number of snaps ratio as last season, I would still take the under because I don't think he's going to play as many snaps.
Okay.
He played 98% of the Chiefs snaps last season.
He's got the green dot.
I don't think he's going to play 98%. It might be 92% or something like that, but I do think Tranquil is going to see the field a lot.
I do too. I just don't think it's going to be over Bolton.
Yeah, I think they're going to keep Bolton. I think it'll be over Willie Gay.
I think Bolton will see a similar snap load. I like the over on tackles. I wouldn't bet him to lead the league. And the reason I wouldn't is just the simple calculus of I expect the Chiefs to be ahead in a lot of games. And when you're ahead, you throw the ball a lot. And when you throw the ball a lot, that's more tackles for your cornerbacks and for your safeties, and not as many for your linebackers. So that is my hesitation to believe in Nick Bolton as the league's tackle leader, is that the opportunities just might not be there because I expect the Chiefs to be really good again, and I expect them to be ahead in a lot of games and teams to be trailing them in the fourth quarter to the extent where they have to throw the ball a lot. They can't really run it. And if you're a linebacker, most of your tackles come in underneath or run support.
All righty. Next one I've got for you. I'll put it at a half. Okay. Nick Bolton touchdowns.
Under. I know that's not the fun answer, but
the reason I say that, he's got 2 fumble returns for a touchdown in the last 2 years. And we're gonna include the playoffs in this one as well, because in the Super Bowl he got one, and then against the Denver Broncos he got one 2 years ago. So he's scored a touchdown the last 2 years. We're gonna include the playoffs because that makes it more opportunity in this situation.
I'm still going under.
Still going under.
Yeah.
Okay. Over under 2.5 sacks. He had 2 last year.
Oh, no, I'm going to go under there too.
Yeah, I'm under on that as well. I don't think that's his role.
If I said 1.5, does that change your mind?
Yeah, I mean, he had 2 last year.
So 2 is the number.
2 kind of feels about right.
I would still take the under, I think. This would be another non-play for me, but I think I would still take that under. I mean, he played 60% of the snaps as a rookie, and he had 0.
That was when he was a rookie, though.
Yeah, I would pass on that, but I would still take the under. He's just, you don't see him rushing the quarterback very often. Run play, sure, he gets in the backfield plenty, but you just don't see it a lot.
He's a guy to me that's so interesting what they're going to do for the future for him. I don't care what you say. It is valuable to have a guy who can tackle 180 times. I don't care what you say.
All right, here's one for you. Not sacks, tackles for loss. I'll give you 10 flat. Over under. He had 11 as a rookie, 9 last year.
I'm gonna take the.
I'm gonna yell at you if you say push.
I'm gonna take the over. I think he's really good. I
think he's a good player too.
You shouldn't pay a linebacker an absorbent amount unless they are a ball hawk like a Fred Warner or back in the day Bobby Wagner or a Luke Kuechly type of guy who can do everything. But man, the dude is a tackling machine. That is valuable. It really is. So I don't know what they're gonna do. They got some unique situation because they've drafted so well. What are they gonna do about Creed and Trey Smith and then Bolton? What are you gonna do about L'Jarius Sneed? What are you gonna do about a lot of these guys who are playing well and could get paid? You're gonna have to make some tough decisions if you're Brett Veach, and I think Nick Bolton is one of them.
Who would you rather keep? Bolton? You get to take 2 of 3. Creed, Trey, Bolton.
I would keep Creed and Bolton.
Yeah, that's what I would probably do too.
Interesting. I'm keeping the offensive lineman. I'm keeping both of them.
The argument for that is a really easy one to make because offensive line continuity is so important.
Mm-hmm.
But I think also having a green dot in the middle of your defense can help give your defense an identity.
That's true.
And help thread the defense together over years.
I can give you my answer at this time next year because if I think, let's say Wanya Morris plays a lot.
It is Wanya.
If let's say Wanya Morris ends up having to play and he's good, then I'm taking Bolton because now I've got my left tackle set for the future, my right tackle set for the future, and my center set for the future. I can find 2 guards.
That's fair.
And
Morris is such a huge factor for the future for this team.
And obviously, circumstances were a little bit different for Trey Smith, but you found that guy in the 6th round. You found him day 3.
Yeah, that was wild.
That's true.
He should have been a 2nd round pick, though.
Yeah, he should have.
And Bolton was a 2nd round pick.
Yeah.
So that's your difference.
Coming up next, Random Question Tuesday here on 580 Sports Talk. We're going to talk some Royals baseball with Matt LeMar of Royals Review. Which renderings he likes. Plus, what's it going to cost to keep Bobby Witt Jr.? What kind of contract numbers, years, all of that. That'll be coming up. We've got Royals baseball tonight. We'll go around the NFL, including we're gonna truly find out about the running back position, I think, and what running backs might end up making, but maybe more specifically what a running back can do. I'll be interested to get your guys' opinion on this because we are all don't pay running backs, but I think there are some stipulations to paying running backs. So we'll get to that coming up in the 4 o'clock hour. Mitch Holthus in the 5 o'clock hour. But right now it's Random Question Tuesday. Give me your favorite flavor of Gatorade. I have orange Gatorade in my hand right now. I was walking through the old pop aisle and thought, pop, I got to stop drinking so much pop. It's got too much sugar in it. Got to get the G2. It's got the, zero sugars with the Powerade Zero. Brandon doesn't like that, apparently, judging by his facial expression.
Wait, so which one is it?
I got the.
Okay, G0 is better than G. I still prefer the regular to the G0, but G0 is better than G2. G2 is gross.
Well, whatever, it's got zero sugar.
Okay.
So what was your favorite? What was your go-to? What do you drink now? What do you miss? Give me your Gatorade hierarchy.
White cherry is my favorite.
That one's really good.
Of the current active flavors, that one I have found I enjoy as much in the G0 and the regular Gatorade. I don't think that's the case for all of the classic Gatorade flavors.
That's a good take.
So white cherry is my favorite. I will say this though, we have some in the house. We have some sports drink in the house, and Abby doesn't do the orange. She doesn't like orange, so I have to drink all the orange. And orange was never my favorite.
I like orange.
But drinking the orange, I might be back in on the orange. Yeah. I might be back in.
You ready for this? Citrus Cooler was always my favorite growing up. They don't make it anymore.
Didn't you find it?
Yeah, then they discontinued it again.
Yeah.
Didn't you think you'd found it and it was the cucumber flavor?
No. I just thought that looked like, because I like lime. I like lime Gatorade.
Oh yeah, you bought it because you said lime.
Yeah, and it was cucumber. It
was very bad.
Oh, it was the most disgusting thing I've ever drank. Oh, it was so bad.
But I love Citrus Cool. But you want to know what I wish they'd bring back? Riptide Rush.
Was that like the
light purple?
The light purple. Yeah,
man, I loved Riptide
Yeah, that was good stuff.
Rush. Oh, I could drink Riptide Rush like.
I remember.
Man.
Yeah, you can still buy it.
Can't find it in the stores.
Well, I will tell you this much, that you can buy it online from Walmart. Riptide Rush, yeah, light purple. Yeah.
Riptide
Rush. $20 for an 8-pack.
What? No.
I'm just telling you what I found it here.
I draw the line at that.
From Old Wally World.
You can get that for like $5.
Of the ones you can get most readily now, and I've always loved Glacier Freeze the best. That's always been my number one. Number two, I'd probably give you Fruit Punch. Probably go with the red.
Classic red.
The classic red regular Gatorade is too thick. It's like too much for me.
I have never felt that, but I respect your opinion.
Feels like I'm drinking Kool-Aid.
All right. I have never felt that way. Yeah. See, I don't like the orange because I feel like it's chalky.
They to each their own.
I feel like it's kind of a chalky pour. My third would be a tie between the black cherry and the original lemon lime. I like
the
lemon lime. Delicious.
Delicious.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
That was really good. We went to Sam's Club. We got the big crate of it. I think it's 8 of each flavor. It's the Glacier Freeze, great. The cherry, great. And then I think it's Arctic Blitz is the name of it. It looks like Glacier Freeze, but tastes a lot worse. That one I kind of have to just chug without really thinking about it, and then I can get it down. Question for me today. This was inspired by, you remember the commercial a few years ago when the NFL was celebrating 100 years, and they had pretty much every living famous NFL player in a big ballroom, and there was a gold football rolling around. They picked it up. And
the commercial.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
There is a scene in that commercial where Baker Mayfield tells Tom Brady, hey, you should go throw one. And Tom Brady gives his 6 Super Bowl rings to Baker Mayfield. He takes the rings off his hands and hands them to Baker Mayfield. Can you think of another athlete that was supposed to be the next big thing or the next greatest of all time, and it just really didn't happen.
He made that commercial.
Yeah, like 1 year into his career, Baker Mayfield got Tom Brady's Super Bowl rings in a commercial sponsored by the NFL.
Talk about timing is everything.
Yeah,
that's a fact.
So someone who was supposed to be an all-time great, and it just didn't pan out.
Now, Baker Mayfield's a pretty severe example. Now he's a journeyman already.
Yeah.
I mean, he was in national commercial.
Awesome commercials.
Yes, he was a national commercial pitchman for insurance. 2 years ago, and now he's an itinerant
Trash Days Tuesday.
itinerant backup.
No, he's the starter.
Yeah, he did win the job.
Okay,
He's battling with Kyle Trask though.
Yeah,
So
he's backups are also starters on bad teams.
that's true. That's fair.
Like the first one that comes to my mind is Ryan Leaf. Because he was supposed to be great coming out of Washington State.
Yeah, there's a real debate.
Yeah.
Leaf or Manning.
You can think of all kinds of quarterbacks. Man, I still can't believe it didn't work out in the NFL for Trent Richardson.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
He was unbelievable in college.
He got traded for a first-round pick.
He did. There's lots of great baseball examples, but usually the reason like a hyped player in baseball doesn't pan out is because they're a pitcher and their arm explodes. Or sometimes it just doesn't click. Like I'm sure we've got some Royals fans of certain vintage who are screaming Clint Hurdle at the radio. Former Rocky manager Clint Hurdle.
Yeah.
Cover boy of Sports Illustrated. I mean, he was a big deal prospect. That didn't work out. Royals history is littered with those guys. Jimmy Gobble.
Jimmy Gobble.
I think of a lot of NBA players. Like the first name that pops in my head is Sebastian Telfair.
See, the thing with Telfair, they made a documentary about his like draft process before he even got to the league. And then when he got to the league, everybody was like, oh, wait a minute. He's only 6 feet tall. How's this going to work?
Yeah.
He's not Allen Iverson and he's only 6 feet tall. How's he going to get his own shot?
Yeah, no, that's fair. The other ones I would think of basketball wise, one who just got drafted, Amani Bates was supposed to be the heir to the throne.
No, I remember, yeah.
And he's slow and can't really jump. And then like Wiggins has had a good career, NBA champion, all-star, but he got the nickname Maple Jordan at 19.
I think that's a little unfair for Wiggins because he has had a good career.
He's had a good career.
Yeah.
Two good answers.
He's not Maple Jordan, though.
Two good answers from the text line from 785, Greg Oden.
Yeah.
Great answer.
Yeah.
Not his fault. Injuries
Yeah, so much of it's
torpedoed him.
involved in injuries.
And for the 316, Jeff George, another great
Yeah.
answer. We were talking about Jeff George the other day. Great immaculate grid answer, Jeff George. You and I were talking about Jeff George, Brendan, in the bullpen the other day.
George.
The problem with Jeff George, you look at his numbers. Like, he had a couple of years that were like legitimately excellent, but he was not a guy that he was a bit of a baby. Like
everyone hated him.
Yeah, his reputation was that like none of his teammates ever really liked him.
By the way, last thing before we get to a quick break.
Do I not get to ask my question today?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, here's my question for today. What is your favorite feature at a sporting venue you have been to? Inspired by the renderings of the Royal Stadium today. What is your favorite feature? It can be like a display, an installation. It can be just a part of the stadium. It can be like an on-site museum or display or something like that. What's the coolest feature, your favorite feature of any stadium?
Easy. Wrigley toilet troughs.
That did not go where I thought it was.
Fred G. Hughes Stadium agrees.
No, it's the bricks and ivy. It's the ivy at Wrigley Field.
See, I'll be biased. I love the fountains. I think the fountains are cool as hell, man. I really do.
I like the fountains.
Yeah,
the ivy's cool. The monster's cool. Like, I would love to watch a game from atop the monster. That would be
I'd get vertigo.
I was gonna say, I feel like I'd get vertigo.
Oh, gosh,
I don't think I'd enjoy that very much at all.
I think that'd be really
if
cool.
I were in like the middle row and I couldn't look back and I couldn't look straight down, I could probably make it work.
Yeah, I think that would be. Yeah, those would be. Yeah.
Okay, fine. You guys are going with so your favorite teams, your hometowns. I'll go with the Purple Row.
No, that's really cool. That's cool.
Marking 1 hour above sea level.
That's cool. That's really cool.
1 mile above sea level.
I took a selfie in front of it. I was like the first person in the park when I went to a Rockies game a few years ago, and I went all the way up, and I took goofy looking selfie in front of them.
I like that one. Yeah. No, there's a bunch of others that I can think of.
Let us know yours. Hit us up on
Yeah.
the text line, 785-272-9429, or the comments on YouTube, channel called 580 Sports Talk.
Coming up next, we'll talk with Matt LeMar of Royals Review on all things Royals. We will go around the NFL coming up in the 4 o'clock hour. What is wrong with you? Mitch Holthus joins us in the 5 o'clock hour. We'll talk a little KU. Michael Swain, 24/7. We'll talk a little Hawks. Chris Kleiman met with the media today. We might address some of that on Thursday. Little bit not what I'm wanting to hear from the old Cats right about now, and certain issues on the old depth chart.
They'll be fine.
They'll be fine.
They'll be
but if they run into specific injuries, that's not what you want. There are two positions on both sides of the football that you need really good depth at.
Yeah.
And one of those two on each side, not a good situation. But we might get to that coming up on Thursday. But right now, we're going to talk all things Royals baseball with Matt LeMar, deputy manager of Royals Review, and he had a great piece out on how the hell that John Sherman's going to afford Bobby Witt Jr. Matt, how are you doing on this Tuesday afternoon?
Sorry, you guys caught me off guard. This is actually Max Reaper of the Royals Review.
I'm sorry,
happy to
Max.
pinch hit, though.
I'm sorry, Max. I got to know though. Your thoughts on the renderings for the new Chiefs or the new Royals Stadium. Which one do you like better?
You know, I'm kind of more of the downtown KC supporter. The North Kansas City rendering looks great, and I think it looks great because North Kansas City is a little more spread out. There's not a lot there. It's industrial, so there's a lot more room to play with. So it looks like they have like a nice little park, a 4,000 seat performance venue, which I can see being pretty neat to have like concerts, pre and post game stuff like that. So there are some interesting possibilities that I think wouldn't be possible with an East Village site, which is a little more densely populated. There's a lot of government buildings out in that area. You have less of a footprint to work with. But I like the idea of like the dense. I mean, the whole reason to come to downtown rather than to stay out at Truman Sports Complex, I thought, was to kind of get that urban feel, to get that district, to get kind of like to be close to downtown by the Power and Light District and by the T-Mobile Center and all the other stuff, other amenities that we have downtown already. So for that reason, I like the East Village site better generally, but I have to admit the renderings for the North Kansas City site, I think on paper look better. Now, it's long. The big difference between, pretty pictures and renderings and what you actually get in practice. I think a lot of people remember the Texas Rangers had a really great rendering for their ballpark, and then they built it, and it looked like a big Dick's Sporting Goods store. I mean, it didn't quite pan out in practice. So we'll have to see if they follow through with the renderings. But we've got some great sports architecture firms here in town, and I think they did a pretty good job. But still a long way to go.
Is there a couple things that this new stadium has to have in your mind?
Yeah, I think absolutely they have to have the fountains, right? I mean, that's kind of what makes Kansas City iconic, and it's what makes Kauffman Stadium stand out so much. And I think if they don't include fountains, people will riot. I think they really need to incorporate some sort of crown vision too. I don't think it has to be exactly, I don't think they have to move the entire crown vision over downtown and replicate it exactly, but it has to look pretty close to kind of replicate that experience for fans. Other than that, I think they have some room to play with. I think, in that respect, I'm a little underwhelmed, and just because there aren't a lot of bells and whistles that we haven't seen in a lot of other stadium renderings with other teams, sports teams, and other sports as well. So there's not, for a city that does have a lot of great sports architecture firms, you thought maybe they would come up with something kind of new and inventive. And there's some cool things. I mean, there's a lot of glass in the East Village ballpark rendering, a nice little pedestrian walkway that would be pretty cool. But it still looks like a lot of ballparks we've seen. But absolutely, they would need to incorporate some of the old elements from Kauffman Stadium, because there already is a lot of pushback from fans that are either nostalgic about Kauffman Stadium or don't want a downtown stadium for whatever reason. So they're going to have to make that transition as smooth as possible.
Do you think that they have to make a big purchase, whether it be players or something, an extension for this to actually go down?
Yeah, I mean, like the PR right now has been pretty bad. I mean, they keep insisting there's polling that shows that there's support for it. And maybe there is, and I think there might be like maybe a vocal minority it's a vocal minority that is very much against a new stadium. But a lot of the people I talk to, even people that are pretty open to downtown, they're skeptical. Let's say at the very least, they're skeptical at moving. First of all, getting rid of a ballpark that, first of all, we've had 50 years of memories. That is, that we all grew up, watching Royals games at. That is the fourth oldest stadium in baseball now. There's questions about, going downtown. I know a lot of people aren't comfortable with the parking and traffic and the crime situation. I'm not one of them, but there are people with those reservations. And then there are people concerned about the cost to taxpayers. How much do our taxpayers going to be on the hook for this, which the Royals have still been very vague about and have not really put anything down on paper or have made an ask. So we don't know about that yet. And they didn't really answer any of those questions today. So there's a big uphill battle to be fought here. And, with the team 40-87, second worst record in baseball, losing to the worst team in baseball last night, and it's not a great time to ask for, millions of dollars in public subsidies. So to go, it would go a long way to make a big splash this offseason. And look, they keep saying this is an evaluation year. This is an evaluation year. Okay, well, they've had a year to evaluate. I think this offseason is going to be the year to start making some progress towards building towards a contending team again, whether that means locking up Bobby Witt Jr. for the future, making a big splash in free agencies or a big trade, or both. I mean, that would go a long way towards reassuring the public that John Sherman is here for the long term. He's not just here to get a quick buck, but that he actually cares about the interest of the team, the long-term future of this franchise. Because right now he looks like an owner who, like all these other owners that we've heard in the news, John Angelos, Jerry Reinsdorf, Oakland, the owner in Oakland, these guys are just asking for public money to make a quick buck. And they don't care about the fans. And I think a lot of fans are sick of that. And John Sherman, in my heart of hearts, I don't think he's like that, but he has yet to really prove that. And until he does, I think a lot of fans are going to be skeptical.
Max Reaper is our guest. He is the editor-in-chief of Royals Review at royalsreview.com. You can find him on Twitter at Max Reaper is his handle, and he joins us here on 580 Sports Talk on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. You mentioned his name just a moment ago, Max, so let's get to the elephant in the room here. Why isn't a deal done with Bobby Witt Jr.? Why does he not already have his 10-year extension done? What is taking so long? And I'm being facetious, but also kind of not. Like, what should be the timeline to get something done? Because he's here. Like, this is the prince who was promised. Bobby Witt Jr. He is here. He has arrived. So what is it going to take to get this long-term deal done?
Well, yeah, the time to do it was probably last off season, right? I mean,
Right.
he had a promising first season, but he hadn't really jumped to superstardom yet, or earlier, the first couple months of this season when he was scuffling a little bit. Now at this point, I mean, if you're Bobby Witt Jr., are you willing to sign a long-term deal in Kansas City? Does this seem like a franchise that's going to be successful over the long haul of your career? You don't want to commit to 10 years in Kansas City and they're crummy for 10 years. You never have a chance to experience postseason. You want a big stage to show off your skills and you want to win. He's a competitive guy. I'm sure he doesn't want to lock himself to a bad situation. So, again, a big splash this offseason might go a long way towards convincing him that this is the place to be. But yeah, I think kind of the window has passed a little bit. He's a guy that already got a big bonus. He comes from a major league family, so I don't know if he's necessarily hurting for money. Now, he may want to make his own way rather than money, his family money. But he's not a guy that really has to take the first deal offered to him. He can kind of hold out and wait for the best deal. And so I think he's in the driver's seat now. Things have shifted. I think, last offseason, the Royals were maybe not in the driver's seat, but they had some leverage over him. And now he's very much in the driver's seat of like, well, look, I've got 4 years until free agency. I can wait that long and bet on myself for a big deal. And he doesn't have to take an under market deal. Now you mentioned Matthew LeMar. I think you were talking about Matthew LeMar's article this week about what it would take to sign Bobby Witt, and it's a lot. It's like twice away, much more than twice what they've ever paid anyone. So we'll have to see if John Sherman is willing to put his money where his mouth is, and he talks a lot about investing in this team and having a sustainable winner. Well, having a sustainable winner means having a rock solid all-star shortstop in your lineup, a guy that can steal 50 bases, hit 30 home runs. That's Bobby Witt Jr. You don't find those players every day, and so it would make a lot of sense to lock him up, even if it does take a lot of money, because they don't have a lot of money tied up in players. Salvador Perez seems like a lot of money just because we're a small market team. In the grand scheme of things, it's not, for baseball terms, it's not a lot of money. They don't have any other commitments. They can afford to kind of overpay for Bobby a little bit, I think. And for paying for a player that young, it makes a lot of sense, especially when he's in the ascendancy of his career. So I think it would make a lot of sense for them to try to lock him up, but it takes two sides to tango. So we'll have to see if Bobby's open to it.
Max, a lot of the talk about a possible Bobby Witt Jr. extension centers around the long-term deal, the 10 to 12-year extensions that guys like Ozzie Albies, Ronald Acuna Jr., Wander Franco, guys like that, guys in their early 20s like Witt have signed with their organizations. What about something that's a little bit of a shorter-term outlook, something that would be amenable in terms of, okay, we buy out a couple of years of free agency. We make sure that we take good care of you through the arbitration years, through year one, maybe even year 2 or 3 of free agency, and still give you the opportunity, if it doesn't click here, if you're not playing winning baseball, if you want to go ring chasing in your 30s, an opportunity to get another big contract in free agency later on down the road. Would that be something that might be workable for either side?
Yeah, I think that might make some sense. I mean, I think we got him for 6 years regardless. And so if he maybe gives up a year of free agency, he would still be a free agent at age 28, which is the prime of your career. The years will, he'll still be young enough to get, 7 to 10 year contract if he's at this level of play that we've seen, the last couple of weeks. So yeah, I think he might be open to something like that. Now, does that help the Royals that much? Getting a year extra from him, I think would help a little bit. It also depends on what they're looking for as far as a contention window. We know Brady Singer, the clock is ticking on him. They got these players up. MJ Melendez, we have to start. It's sad to say, once these guys get up and start producing, we got to start thinking about when do they hit free agency, and the clock is ticking for Vinny Pasquantino, MJ Melendez, all these guys. So how are we going to maximize that window of contention? So if we can keep an extra year, maybe he's open to that because he will be so young when he hits free agency regardless. But again, the ball's kind of in his court. You can offer some flexibility with some opt-outs. That's kind of been the trend around baseball. Maybe that, gets, like that Julio Rodriguez deal with Seattle had a lot of player flexibility. I mean, he's got some opt-outs in there where, if he wants to bet on himself, he can do so. So maybe something structured like that gives Bobby some flexibility, but also some security as well. But again, you're handing all the keys to the player in that situation where he doesn't pan out. And we saw, Wander Franco, you mentioned him. He's under investigation right now. He may not. We don't know what his career is. It's in jeopardy right now. So that's always a big risk. But for a player like Bobby Witt Jr., maybe it's a kind of player you want to take a risk for. And they believe in him, and they've vetted him a lot. We'll see if he's the kind of player they want to commit to. But yeah, I think there's something flexible where he has a lot of the control. I think could be something that's maybe a little more attractive to him.
You mentioned Melendez. He's been a really interesting player to me because the results in the first half of the season, they didn't match his profile from last year. He was striking out way more, walking way less than he did as a rookie, which is not usually how those things go. And also, he wasn't getting great results when he did put the ball in play, despite really promising batted ball metrics. He's having a huge second half, and obviously that's been a positive to see him get his bat on track. But the question persists, is the bat going to be good enough to carry the glove if he's going to play the outfield frequently for the Royals? What does the future look like for MJ Melendez? Do you think the Royals view him as a long-term corner outfield solution, or might he be more valuable as a trade piece to a team that would be able to DH him or even move him back behind the plate?
Well, yeah, I think, early in the season, I think a lot of what we were saying was him hitting the ball hard but not getting results, and a little bit of pressing at that point where, maybe he was swinging at pitches he wouldn't ordinarily swing at. And now, he's been working a lot this summer with Alex Zumwalt. I think there's an article out there to be written by one of the beat writers about what exactly they did to kind of turn his season around. But, the results the last couple of weeks have been excellent. It's what we kind of expected out of MJ Melendez to start the year. As for his future, I think the whispers we heard around the trade deadline were that the team was willing to trade Salvador Perez. And I think that's going to open up the catching position. Now, the way Freddie Fermin has played, does he become a viable option at catcher, or is he the backup and MJ Melendez as a starter, or maybe MJ is splitting time between the outfield and catcher? They have some different options there. I don't think the outfield experiment has gone that well. Can he hit it well enough to kind of carry a negative glove? I don't. You're gonna have to hit it really, really, really well to kind of overcome what we've seen out there so far. And, playing in Kauffman Stadium, I don't know if you can really afford to carry a left fielder who can't, get after balls the way he does. And, he could still improve. And Alex Gordon, I don't know if he was necessarily great from day one, but he certainly got good in a hurry. So there's still a time for MJ Melendez to improve. But I think still full-time or long-term is his future is at the catcher position. And I kind of expect Salvador Perez to kind of get traded this offseason. Maybe I'm misguided, but the whispers have been that the Royals are certainly willing to trade him, and if he's open to it, which it sounds like he is for the right team, a deal could be made. So MJ, I think I don't like seeing him in the outfield. I think I'd rather see him sit behind the plate and maybe focus more on his hitting. But it is nice to see him hitting this last month because I think he could be a guy that hits at the top of that lineup for years.
Max, thank you so much for the time. We appreciate it. Hopefully the Royals can find a way to get a win tonight against the lowly A's.
All right, thanks for having me on, guys. Appreciate it.
Max Reaver, Royals review here on 580 Sports Talk. We got lots to get to coming up in the 4 o'clock hour. Michael Swain will talk all things KU, what is wrong with you, and we'll go around the NFL here on 580 Sports Talk. 580 Sports Talk on the air. Jake, Brendan, Dan with you. Hour number 3, plenty to get to. We're going to go around the NFL here in a little bit. What is wrong with you? And then we'll have Michael Swain coming on. We'll talk with Mitch Holthus. Gearing up for Royals baseball tonight as the Royals take on the A's. The Royals lost to the A's yesterday. Like, that actually happened.
Yeah, revenge game for Brent Rooker.
Walk off.
I thought he hit that off the end of the bat. I wasn't watching with the sound on very high, so I didn't hear the crack of the bat. And obviously, it didn't matter how loud you had the volume on. Nobody was at that game, so nobody made like any instant reaction to it. But yeah, it carried enough. Strong man.
Do you like the over today? Zerpa versus Danny Jimenez. Both stink.
Is Jimenez an opener? Can somebody confirm? Because I think he pitched the 10th last night.
He's only pitched 8 innings this year, but
yeah, I'm going to guess he's opening.
In 8 innings, he has 7 walks.
Love it.
Yeah, he is not pitched more than an inning.
Okay, it wasn't him that pitched. Yeah, it'll be an opener. It was not him that pitched the 10th last night. They have another Jimenez.
All right, we're going to play a fun game here. Who gets closest to the amount of attendance in the game last night? All right, Price is Right rules.
Game of
the attendance game.
Yes. I will give you a little hint. Okay. 7% capacity. Okay. So that's how quick you can do math in your head if you think you know it. All right. 7% capacity. Dan will give you first guess. What is your guess on the attendance? Price is Right rules. Closest without going over.
3,100.
3,100. Brendan.
3,101, Bob. I'm sorry.
Price is Right rules. Fair is fair.
I win. Okay, cool. You both over.
Oh no.
Barely. 3,095.
Oh, I'm off by 5 and I lose.
That Price is Right rules. I win. What do I win?
Nothing.
Yeah, you don't get to play when you know the answer.
Well, you guys both lost. You both got the
That doesn't mean Bob Barker gets the prize.
He should. What do the beauties get the prize? I don't know.
Probably not.
No, technically what we're supposed
they
to
just
do.
rebid.
Rebid is what we should have done. But yeah. But yeah, 3,000.
Sorry, you lost out on your wardrobe.
So Royals baseball tonight. Zerpa on the bump for the Kansas City Royals. Will Bobby Witt get 230 home runs this year?
Yes.
Yeah.
30-30 for Bob.
Never been done by a Royal before.
Wow, that's awesome.
I asked Jake this the other day. Do you know the last Royal to go 2020?
2020.
The answer? Willie Bloomquist.
Wrong.
Not the answer.
Emil Brown.
Stop.
Coco Crisp.
This was an earnest trivia question, and you're throwing out nonsense.
Yes, you're ruining it. Was it Mike Aviles?
It was not Mike Aviles.
Angel Baroa.
2011.
Oh.
He was a big golfer. Loves golf.
Not a good hint.
Well, he does. He is a current major league broadcaster.
Oh, Frenchie. Jeffrey Cord. Yeah.
That was the year that Gordon, Cabrera, and Frenchie all had over 40 doubles. That was incredible.
And the Royals that year
I
finished
believe they had all over 40 doubles.
71 and 91.
Was that right, though? Did you look?
Did they all have 40 doubles?
I think they all had 40 doubles.
Let's see. Gordon, Cabrera, Frenchie all had 44 or more.
Yeah.
Billy Butler also had over 40 doubles that year.
Doubles machine. Gosh, whatever Chris wants gets at second base that year.
What would you give for 5 Royals to have an OPS plus over 118 this year?
That'd be nice.
Yeah, they did. Butler was
because the Royals have what,
125?
2? They got 3 above average for Mean, Witt, and Vinny.
Yeah, I believe you're right about that.
Matt Trainer, catcher. Brian Pena. That was the year that Salvi got hurt.
Shout out to Misty May Trainer. Yeah, I mean,
they also had Wilson Bedimit at a 106 OPS plus.
Matt Beatty and Nelly Velasquez are both over 100, but they've played a combined 25 games.
Yeah, they don't count.
Vinny's at 108, done for the year. Witt's at 123, and Fredward Fermin is at 124 for their OPS plus. So yeah. And then you've got a couple of guys who are just below average. Salvi's 96, Prado's at 93, Michael Garcia 96, Oliveras 91, MJ 92. It's like a lot of very slightly below average bats. And then you've got Massey and Isbell.
Shout out first baseman Kila Kaiahue and his 195 batting average. This has been reminiscing about crappy Royals.
No greater quad A slugger in Royals recent memory than Kila Kaiahue.
That is
word to Ryan Sheely.
Also, outstanding base runner Mitch Meyer on the team that year.
Is he managing somewhere?
Fantastic.
I would counter your point, though. He wasn't with the Royals organization very long, but Mike Jacobs was with the Royals in 09.
Mike Jacobs and his gigantic bat or chew that he would put in his mouth.
The all-time leader in minor league home runs in baseball history, Mike Jacobs.
Mike Jacobs.
He's the real-life Crash Davis.
Yeah, he really is.
All righty. I want to get your guys' opinion on this because I think it's a fun discussion. Especially now because everybody's up in arms about how running backs are not getting paid. We all know the saga of Jonathan Taylor in Indianapolis.
Yes.
And the Colts have now said, yeah, you can go out and seek a trade. All right.
Mm-hmm.
This is a bad situation if you are Jonathan Taylor because no one's going to want to give up draft capital and pay you. If you were just a free agent, this would be interesting because then we could get a much more understanding of how a good running back. Now, he's not a special running back to me because he don't catch the ball. He's not like a Christian McCaffrey or even an Austin Eckler, if you will, because I think that's what makes some of those guys very unique, right? Jonathan Taylor is a lot like a Nick Chubb, in my opinion, where he's just a really good runner of the football.
Mm-hmm.
But how valuable is that? I wish you didn't have to trade for him because then you could get a legit how much money are they worth opinion. But I think because you got to give up something, how many people are going to give up draft capital and then also pay a running back? I think Jonathan Taylor's in a bad spot right now.
Well, I mean, you can spin it though. Like the team I gave yesterday during headlines when this news broke was Washington. Washington has $65 million in cap space next year, and they've got a team this year that's a coaching staff this year that's probably trying to save their job with a quarterback who is going to be in his second year with one career start. Adding a player like Jonathan Taylor would help because Brian Robinson looks like there's some promise there, but you could add a guy like Jonathan Taylor. That's a good piece to add to a team like that has good receivers, make things as easy as possible on your young quarterback. And again, Ron Rivera probably trying to save his job this year with a run to the playoffs.
Do you think his job's even safe with a new owner? A new owner might want his own guy.
Well, that's why I think you got to be a playoff team. Yeah, and I think they will be in the running for that. And I think that bringing in more offensive talent will help that. So that was the example I gave of a team I think would be interested in him. So you could spin it as, well, I've got a chance to get paid here. Maybe team agrees to a trade. They trade, 2-3 picks, whatever, and then they sign me. Or nobody wants to sign me long-term right now. I go play well. I'm 25, 26 years old. I get one decent contract as a free agent.
Can you go back to the Colts after all this?
No, it's over.
Yeah, I don't. He's played his last game with the shoe on the helmet.
I mentioned it yesterday. It was Stephen Holder of ESPN a couple weeks ago when this was really coming to a head. And he put on Twitter, really good. I've got a whole list of beat writers that I follow on Twitter, and I have a running list of these guys, and he's the one for the Colts that I follow. And he pretty much said, I will just be as honest as I can with you guys. Well, however bad you think this relationship is, it is worse. Like
the whole Irsay didn't handle this well.
No, he didn't.
No,
but
you don't say that. This is the wild part of this, though, right? Like we got to this situation where the relationship between Jonathan Taylor and the Colts is untenable because the way teams value running backs has changed. And the Colts no longer see a player, even one as good as Jonathan Taylor. Great. Like, last time we saw healthy Jonathan Taylor for a full season, he was arguably the best running back in the NFL. A great player at the position. And that is something that a team that has the pockets with a rookie quarterback to pay a running back still won't do it. Still doesn't value that position enough to go and give Jonathan Taylor what he's worth. That's how we got here, right? That's how we got to the point where he's never going to play for the Indianapolis Colts again, Jonathan Taylor. And yet, you're going to take that same player to the trade market and say, anything less than a first-round pick and don't even bother calling. We're going to hang up on you if you don't offer us the equivalent of a first-round pick. Like, what?
No
running backs don't even get taken in the first round hardly ever anymore.
Yeah. Well, and they're dirt cheap at least at that point.
So which is it? Which is it? Is Jonathan Taylor a valuable member of your team or is he not? Or is he replaceable? Because if he's replaceable, you trade him for whatever. You go Jonathan Taylor for a third and a conditional seventh.
I do believe this is just front end of a negotiation. If I had to guess right now, Taylor goes for either a second and a fifth or a third and a fourth. I think it'll be 2 picks, a day 2 and a day 3, and that's what they'll end up getting for him.
But then you got to pay him. You're not going to give up a second and a third or a third and a fourth or whatever combination you said
2 and 5.
2 and 5 for 1 year.
And you probably are going to pay him.
So what's he going to get then? Like that's where I'd love to know where the running back market is right now.
I would say,
because he's not like Christian McCaffrey. He's a really good running back. He is not like Christian McCaffrey.
So all right. I don't mean to be incendiary here because I agree. McCaffrey's number one. McCaffrey to me and has been for years. He just hasn't been on the field enough. He has been RB1 in the entire NFL. And I agree with that. There's one of him. Because like if he, the other name you mentioned is Austin Eckler. To be honest with you, you tell me 10 times, pick one of these 2 running backs. I'm taking McCaffrey 11 times out of 10.
Yeah, I'm just like somebody who actually can catch the ball out of the back because Jonathan Taylor cannot.
So relative to other starting NFL running backs, how close to the top is Jonathan Taylor for you?
He's up there. I think Derrick Henry was, but he's not anymore because I think he's getting a little too old. Plus, he's coming off injury.
Like if you're looking at running back salaries for this year, this year, Derrick Henry's getting $16.3 million. Nick Chubb, well, at least in the case of Derrick Henry, he's going to be that team's entire offense. So at least I've got something. Nick Chubb, 14.8. And then it starts to drop. Pollard, franchise tag. Josh Jacobs, Saquon Barkley, franchise tag. Barkley got some incentives. James Conner, 9.4. Joe Mixon took a pay cut to get to 8.4. Mm-hmm. Aaron Jones took a pay cut to get to 8.2. Alvin Kamara, just under 8.2. Those are your top, if it's not 8, I think that's top 9 or 10 guys in the league in terms of running back pay. Austin Eckler then comes in at 7.7. Okay, so those are your top 10 running back salaries. Dalvin Cook on 1 year, who has been good. I would take Taylor over Cook right now, but Cook has been good over the last 4 years. He got 1 year, $7 million straight up. I think if you were, I'm trying to think of Washington, or you're a team that is probably a fringy playoff contender, and you're looking for a playmaker offensively, I could see somewhere between like 8 and 11. I could see a team saying, hey, look, we're going to front load you a deal that's going to pay you $11 million a year. You're going to get all your guarantees in the first 2 years. We would love to keep you longer. We'll add some, we'll add plenty of escalators in there. But we're going to front load you a deal for somewhere in the neighborhood of $11 million. You'll be a top 5 paid guy in the league. I think that is an avenue that a team could end up taking. But alternately, if you end up in a situation where nobody wants to trade for him, well, then maybe a team isn't going to end up signing him long-term, and you don't have to pay as much to get him.
I unless I've got a quarterback who's cheap or on his rookie deal, I don't pay a running back. I don't even care who it is.
Yeah, but that's the wild thing about where the Colts find themselves, right? Like, this would be the team. This would be the situation, especially because Anthony Richardson is nobody's idea of can't miss. This is not like you drafted Andrew Luck, right?
No.
And you think, oh, this is a plug and play. He's going to start for 10 years. He's going to be good right off the rip. This is a guy that maybe needs some help.
And so if that's why Irsay just put gasoline all over this thing because he could have salvaged this.
I have said he's not operating this team like a well person, like a person in control of all of his faculties or facilities. I actually don't know what that saying is. Is it faculties or facilities?
Well, let's just say he doesn't have both oars in the water rowing.
That's a much better way to put it.
I just don't like for the Chiefs. They should never ever pay a running back ever. Like, but if you're if you're the Colts, yeah, I get it. Like if you're the Bears, I get it. If you're the Commanders, I get it. You so there are certain teams that I wonder who would trade for Jonathan Taylor. Just adding that is going to be interesting. Also, real quick, hey, unlike Mike Matheny, I am a hat tipper. Tip of the hat to you guys. Tip of the cap for you guys. Not betting on the Ravens to win yesterday. Well done.
All streaks must come to an end.
How do you feel about the Manders getting that psyched about winning that football game?
I have no problem, man. Those guys are probably not going to be on an NFL roster, and so they're out having a good time.
It was a lot of dip.
Right.
It was a lot of dip on the chip, but like you said,
I'm
like those players may not have a lot of chips in the bag.
Exactly. That's a good analogy there.
Thank
I like
you.
that one, man.
Thank you.
I like that one. Yeah, I have no problem with that. Games are supposed to be fun. Have fun with it. That's why I'm
especially if this is your NFL career.
Yeah. Go have fun with it.
Yeah, you're teaching gym in 4 weeks, maybe. Like,
yeah. I
get ready
no
to talk USFL, buddy.
Hey, that's all right.
Get ready to learn the exchange rate of the Canadian dollar.
Yeah, that is it good right now? Is it bad? I have no idea. Coming up, we've got What Is Wrong With You. Michael Swain joins us. We got headlines, and then we'll hear from Mitch Holthus here. That's all coming up here on 580 Sports Talk.
What is wrong with you? Time here on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan and Dan with you for the rest of the way this afternoon. Thanks so much for joining us. We've got 2 new stories coming up today. Trying to knock down our winner, the axe wielder, the pilot, the United Airlines pilot, not so friendly skies here, who was a little worked up at DIA, Denver International Airport.
Was trying to get out of the parking lot, and for whatever reason, we don't exactly know all the details, but the parking arm would not go up in a satisfactory timing or manner. So he took it down with an axe. He hit it 23 times with an axe until it broke, and then tried to fight the guy who came to try and take the axe away from him. Sometimes you have a bad day.
Yeah.
Man, this is like the closest thing we've ever come to, like, you remember the Michael Douglas flick Falling Down? Have you seen that one?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is like, this guy had a falling down moment. Thankfully, he was subdued before he shot up a fast food restaurant and killed that dude on the golf course.
Yeah. That's good.
Now you're going to die wearing that stupid hat. That's a good movie.
Yeah, this is a little bit extreme. Our stories today are, as they always are, brought to you by Top City Metal Supply, who cuts the metal you need to your specifications, which saves time, money, and material. So never settle when it comes to your metal at Top City Metal Supply on South Topeka Boulevard. Our story today, or my story today, comes to us entered by our good pal Greg Akagi, who sent in this story today.
Wait, Greg?
Where do you land on snakes?
No, thank you.
All right. Well, you might not like this story very much then. We head to Germantown, Wisconsin. That's redundant. Guests staying at a Wisconsin hotel found that they had some unwelcome patrons joining them in the pool, in the hot tub, and in the hallways.
No.
Snakes.
No.
While getting ready to take a dip in her hotel pool last Saturday, Michelle Greasy said she discovered snakes in the pool and in the hot tub. Quote, sure enough, I go in and there's a snake in the hot tub, she says. Gracie shared photos and a video of the intruders at the Country Inn and Suites by Radisson, where she and her 4-year-old son were booked on the first floor. After leaving the pool, Greasy said she saw another snake slithering down the hall. Quote, I literally watched the snake slither under this person's door. So I knocked on the gentleman's door. He came out and I was like, well, there's a snake in your room. He was like, yeah, I see that.
Be hard to miss.
So he grabbed a plunger to try to catch the snake. Not really sure that's going to work out for you, buddy. Greasy said she wasn't the only person finding snakes. Another guest, Michael Harold, says his friend also saw a snake in their hot tub. Quote, he was getting out of the hot tub and saw a snake trying to get out of it. He was scared to touch it, so he grabbed his shirt, grabbed the snake, and rescued it out of the hot tub. After only getting half of a refund, Greasy said she won't book another stay at that hotel. I think the thing that threw me off the most was watching the snake slither under the person's door. And knowing that I was on the first floor, I was like, what would I have done if a snake slithered into my room? The Washington Ozaukee Public Health Department, sent an inspector to the hotel on Tuesday. The report said that while the inspector was at the hotel testing the pool and hot tub, they discovered a snake skin and told the manager to contract a professional pest control company. The hotel general manager reportedly confirmed to the inspector that they were dealing with snakes over the weekend. The report said one staffer hypothesized that hotel guests were leaving exterior fire exits open and thought a pregnant snake may have slithered inside.
Oh, my God. No, absolutely not. Nuke the hotel. There's no other solution.
Yeah, it's over.
Yeah.
It belongs to the snakes.
Raise it. Yes, raise it, nuke it, burn the ground, salt the earth, start over.
Yeah, this is Vance on YouTube says, oh, hell no, call in an airstrike and start over. Matt, in all caps, I'm tired of these snakes in my rooms, hotel, and hot tubs.
Word to Samuel L. Jackson.
What a movie.
Man, like,
yeah.
In the pool?
Yeah.
Absolutely not. Dude, I would run like in the cartoons where like the legs move so fast.
Like a wheel.
That they look like a wheel kicking up smoke before the upper body moves at all. That would be me in real life. I would look like a Looney Tune running away from that hotel. Awful. Awful story. I'm very upset you brought that to me today.
Hey, I'm not saying blame Greg for sending us this story. I'm just saying, no, of course, do not blame Greg for that.
For my story today, we're going to Fayette County, and we meet the Uniontown Ninja, who has his own Wikipedia page, a fact that I discovered later on. We'll get there. A Fayette County man is facing charges after state police say on Saturday he attacked a teenager who did not make him a sandwich. State police say the attack happened in New Salem, Pennsylvania on Saturday. 39-year-old Justin Gelatz was allegedly responsible for the attack. Police say Gelatz punched the boy in the face and hit his head on a wall several times. When troopers asked Gelatz what his name was when they were responding, he told them he was the Uniontown Ninja. Gelatz faces simple assault and harassment charges. So on its face, what we have here is someone overreacting to not having a sandwich made and beating up a child, essentially, beating up a teenager. And then coming up with what seems to be a really cool nickname for himself on the fly, the Uniontown Ninja. But wait, I wanted more details than the story offered. So I Googled Uniontown Ninja and came across an honest-to-God Wikipedia page.
With 10 citations.
The Uniontown Ninja is the popular name used by a man who was seen causing mayhem in South Union Township, Fayette County, Pennsylvania, while dressed as a ninja. The incendiary story caught national news media attention and generated 2 parody YouTube videos, later revealed to be produced by an off-duty police officer. In 2013, police announced an arrest in the case, later leading to guilty pleas on lesser charges. During the Easter weekend of 2011, a series of car break-ins, up to a dozen, were reported in Fayette County. The suspect was described as a male wearing a ninja outfit and carrying a sword.
Sword guy.
Yeah, he's sword guy. The man was captured on a neighbor's surveillance camera with the sword clearly visible. The ninja cut his hand on glass during a break-in on one vehicle, leaving a trail of blood. The story of the Uniontown Ninja caught national attention, appearing on CNN, and a police officer, a Pennsylvania state trooper, created parody videos on YouTube. This is pre-Vine, pre-TikTok. These would have been Vine and TikTok hits.
Oh, big time.
But no, he had to put them on YouTube back in the day. The trooper claimed he was merely making fun of a stupid criminal in his spare time and with his own equipment, and expressed hope that the video might generate leads for the case. In May 2013, police announced a 29-year-old man who had been under investigation for an unrelated crime told the police that he was the Uniontown Ninja. Police said he admitted to the burglary but denied stabbing anyone, saying that he opened unlocked cars. He eventually pled guilty to simple assault and theft from a motor vehicle, so the felony and other charges were withdrawn. 2013, 29-year-old man. 2023, 39-year-old man. Folks, the Uniontown Ninja rides again.
This is like when a band you really enjoy hasn't put out an album in several years and they
like
come back. Yeah, like this is when American Football dropped their second LP. It's like, oh my God, it's been so long. 17 years. This guy waited 10 years. And he thought, I gotta bring the katana out.
I'm the Uniontown Ninja.
I must be a shogun, yes again.
I wonder if the officers, the arresting officers, were familiar. I wonder who the first person was. Because, like, let's say you're new on the beat, which is entirely possible.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you got a couple of younger officers. Maybe they've only been kicking around 5-6 years, and they don't know the saga of the Uniontown Ninja. And they bring this guy in. This guy says, "Yeah, I'm the Uniontown Ninja." And so then they're talking about the bust they made back at the office, back at the station, and they're saying, "Yeah, this guy called himself the Uniontown Ninja. Isn't that wild?" And then some old gruff cop with like just a chain smoking, coffee drinking, 30-year veteran of the force goes, "Oh my God, he's back." And then proceeds to tell the story of the Uniontown Ninja.
I feel like if you're new on the beat, you have to have heard of this guy. Like after the YouTube incident, like there's got to be a training video when you first start, right? Like here's how to not possibly get into a First Amendment violation scenario. Don't make fun of criminals that we have currently in our custody. Let's talk about the Uniontown Ninja. Like, I feel like in a training video, they had to have come across
Could
this.
be. We don't have a lot of stories on what is wrong with you that come prepackaged with their own lore.
Yeah, that's true.
So this one really stands out. The Uniontown Ninja.
That's pretty funny. I'm going to pick this one today.
Yes.
It doesn't involve snakes.
Correct.
And it involves a guy who gave himself a nickname, which is very funny in an embarrassing way. So I'm going to go with the Uniontown Ninja today. Although Barbara does say on YouTube, we had snakes on a plane. Now we bring in snakes in a motel. That is very funny. It's owned by Radisson. I feel like it's a fairly nice hotel, right?
You would think.
Aren't Radisson's kind of nice? That wins today. Does that beat our axe attack?
No. It's going to be a hard one to beat. And I don't just mean this week either. I think it's going to be a very difficult one to dethrone.
Sometimes you hit your breaking point.
Yeah, that's exactly what he told the officers who were arresting him.
And sometimes you also seem have an axe on your person when you hit your breaking point.
Sometimes.
Dangerous combination. That is still our winner today in What Is Wrong With You, sponsored by Top City Metal Supply. Metal cut to order when you need it. That's Top City Metal Supply on South Topeka Boulevard, halfway between Frito-Lay and Forbes Field. Let's take a break. But on the other side of this timeout, Michael Swain from Fog.net is going to join us for this week's edition of Jayhawk Weekly, coming up on 580 Sports Talk. Time for Jayhawk Weekly here on 580 Sports Talk. Brendan and Dan here with you on this Tuesday afternoon as we welcome in Michael Swain, who covers the Kansas Jayhawks better than anybody and does so for Fog.net and 24/7 Sports. That's where you can find all of his tremendous coverage of the Jayhawks, and you can also find him on Twitter at mswain247. Real quick, off the rip here, Michael, what is your favorite accent?
Oh, Australian. It's got to be that.
I am in the same boat. My Siri is actually turned to the female Australian voice 1 setting, I believe. Great accent. So that is pertinent here because KU now has an Australian punter in, I believe it is oh my God, Damon Greaves, right? Is it Damon for his first name?
Yep.
As well as Johnny Furphy, who is now with the men's basketball team, just moved in. They tweeted out the video of him saying Rock Chalk Jayhawk in an Australian accent, and it blew my freaking mind. There's got to be some sort of international partnership here now, right? Like this can be a new international NIL branding opportunity, I think.
Well, you got to be careful with the NIL stuff, right? Because technically, if they're not U.S. citizens, right, I'm not sure if they can actually benefit off name, image, and likeness. But, you know, I'll tell you what, I think KU football would love to have a relationship with Pro Kick Australia long term. I mean, you look at what they've done where Ohio State's punter is from Pro Kick. TCU's punter, who was obviously the best in Big 12 last year, is from Pro Kick. And I think they'll hope that similarly, you know, Greaves can be that for them this year. And obviously, I think Center of Excellence there in Australia has done a pretty good job too, right? You look at Josh Giddey with the Oklahoma City Thunder now, and now Furphy. Like, I think KU would be very happy if those two organizations kind of start to have a long-term relationship with the school.
Have you ever watched an Aussie Rules football game before?
Well, I don't think I've watched the full one, but I've watched a lot of Damon Greaves playing Australian rules football. How about that? It looks pretty pretty intense, and you got to be, I think, pretty tough to play that overall.
Yeah, it's a great sport. I've watched it for a few years now. I still don't really know what's going on. Great sport though. Not a huge fan of Hawthorne, but I won't hold that against a Damon Greaves. Let's get to the football field here, Michael. We are getting closer and closer to the start of the season for the Kansas Jayhawks. It's coming up on Friday against Missouri State, next Friday, I should say. As camp starts to wind down here, where on the field, if we're looking offense, defense, any position group, where has your confidence grown for a position group over the length of fall camp? And where maybe now do you have some more questions than when we started?
Yeah, so I think probably the group I feel probably the best about that maybe I didn't feel good about entering camp is defensive line. It's just one of those groups where I think you looked at the group on paper and you saw a lot of talent, right? In that group, whether it be at defensive tackle or defensive end, and you just didn't know how it was going to come together. And I think as things came together over the course of, the 16 practices in 19 days that Kansas had, I've got a little more confidence in it. I think you look at the defensive tackle group, there's a top 4 there that you feel pretty good about, right? Devin Phillips is going to anchor it. Tommy Dunn and DJ Withers are 2 young players who got reps last year and are taking that next step to where they're starting caliber players. Then you got someone like Gage Keys, who I think is just a different type of defensive tackle profile than Kansas has ever had. 6'5", 290 pounds, and can run 20 miles an hour. It's just a type of guy that Kansas has never had. And so you look at that group, right? You feel a little bit better about that, right? Jeremy Robinson playing on the strong side defensive end. You feel good about him. And then on the weak side, right, you got Hayden Hatcher, who's been around, but Austin Booker's had a really good camp. You're looking at someone like Patrick Joyner, who I think came on as camp went on, and he got more healthy and looked more confident, I think, at least in the drills we're able to see. So I think you look at that group overall, and look, I don't know if it's going to, be consistent. I think there will still be growing pains, but I think it's a group that talent-wise, I think you just feel a lot better about right now. And as for where maybe my confidence has waned, I don't know if there's many positions that have had that happen where I'm really worried about them now. I think generally Kansas has pretty good depth. I might say just a linebacker in general, because you feel good about the top 4 Kansas has, but you're really relying on Cornell Wheeler to take a pretty big jump here, and I think he will do it, but that's still something that has not been proven yet. So an injury to a linebacker or two, and all of a sudden you might be scratching your head a little bit and saying, man, where's kind of the depth here?
Michael Swain is joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline here on 580 Sports Talk for Jayhawk Weekly. All of Michael's work covering KU can be found at fog.net and 24/7 Sports. And you can follow him on Twitter as well at mswain247, and also the KU 24/7 Sports account at Kansas 24/7. I know this was the topic that came up on the VIP board over at fog.net a week or two ago, Michael, about NFL talent on this KU roster. Right now, who would you say are the guys who are, I don't want to say no doubt, because, it's fair or not, it's Kansas football. This has not been a no doubt NFL factory in recent years, but based on what you know about what it takes to get to the NFL, what the league is looking for, and the kind of talent KU has in the building right now, who are the guys who jump out to you as surefire, these guys will probably get drafted next year kind of players?
Oh, man, saying surefire and drafted is hard, just because I think you saw someone last year, right, in Lonnie Phelps that had good production, but didn't get drafted. But I would say guys that have a shot, right, at least being in that conversation. I think there's some people that think that Jeremy Robinson might be the best pro prospect on the team. Just look at the combination of the size profile that he has, the length, athleticism, and production. You match all that together, and I think he's someone that might fit that bill. I think you look at Craig Young athletically, right? I'm not sure if there's a better, just fluid athlete on the team than Craig Young. And being 6'4", 225 pounds, he's the type of guy that I think if you were to go play safety or play that kind of similar hybrid role in the NFL, maybe he fits. And maybe he kind of catches the eye of a team in testing, right? Where maybe special teams is where they think he'll be able to make a big impact. So I look at those two. And then I think there's kind of a separate tier where it's kind of more of these players who I think could make it in the NFL, but maybe have more questions, right? I think Devin Neal is the type of guy that I think his all-around ability will help him, but I think top-end speed might be a question. You look at someone like Daniel Highshaw, who I had another Big 12 coach on a different coaching staff tell me last year that they thought Highshaw was the best pro prospect on KU's offense last year before the injury. But now you're looking at him suffering 2 hip injuries, and that's a pretty big red flag for the NFL. So And then you want to get down the list, right? I could probably point at something like maybe Austin Booker with the size, speed, length, athleticism blend that he has. Maybe he's someone that plays his way into doing that. But I think for this year's team, I think those are kind of the guys. I wonder about Jalen Daniels, right? There's obviously, he continues to kind of get banged up in his KU career, but he's got the talent, but maybe a little bit undersized. So I think KU's at a point now where they're guys, I think they got a lot of fringe guys, which is a lot different than I think in years past, where it's been pretty clear that maybe they had one NFL guy and then a bunch of just okay college players. Well, now I think KU's got a lot of really good college players. And then it's just a question of, all right, do they fit kind of the mold of what the NFL looks for, which considering the amount of talent that there is in college football, it's very hard to kind of break through and be one of those draft picks.
I'm a huge fan of Craig Young's game, and I love the athleticism, and I think you can do multiple things with him, whether you're dropping him back, putting him up on the line, et cetera. And I think KU did a good job of using him in multiple ways last season. So where can he go entering what we expect to be his final year at KU? I can't remember if he has a year of eligibility left. I think he's done it for this year. And I know you can correct me on that, but he was so productive last year. He's kind of a spark plug for that defense because he's kind of a feisty player. We saw that with Leipold, in fact, on the sideline during one game last year. We've heard a lot about some of the other linebackers and what they can do, and we've obviously heard a lot about Rich Miller. But where can Craig Young still go in terms of a leader for this defense and a producer for this defense?
Yeah. So, this will be Craig's last year. I think it's just physicality, imposing himself on the game. I think you look at what he does, covering the slot, covering in space, operating in space, like that is elite, right? That blend of size and speed and athleticism and covering in space and doing what he does in space is huge. But I think for him, it's about going in the box, making tackles, and doing it consistently. If he shows that, then I think you're talking about a guy that will get the attention of NFL scouts. Because I think at times last year, he maybe played a little bit closer to like a safety. And I think KU wants him to play just in terms of physicality, closer to a linebacker, because he does have that physical ability. He's a hard hitter. He can go and make plays like that. And I think it's about him doing it consistently. And if he does, I think you're looking at him being a really well-rounded player. And he's shown he can cover. He can show he can move around in space and do things like that. And now it's just, can he go out there and be a physical player for how many snaps he's out there, which will likely be a lot. And if he does, I think he's got a good shot of turning the heads of some NFL scouts.
Our guest is Michael Swain of Fog.net, 24/7 Sports Network, joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline for Jayhawk Weekly, as he does every Tuesday at this time here on 580 Sports Talk. Check out Michael's great work at Fog.net. Check him out on the formerly known as Twitter app at mswain247. Michael, with so much experience back on offense this year, what kind of wrinkles can we expect to see on offense? And I'm sure that Andy Kolnicki and company are keeping a lot of things close to the vest, but what kinds of things could we see this year in addition to the wrinkles that we saw last year, given the athleticism on the field? Now that it's another year with Jalen Daniels' experience at quarterback, it's a year with a more experienced offensive line, it's a year more experience for that running back group and that receiver group. What can we expect to see added, essentially, dimensions that might be added to the offense this year?
Yeah, I think just the layering of plays, right? You look at what Kansas did last year, right? A lot of what, Andy Kolnicki will talk about and say it's things that are simple to KU's offensive players, but very complex to defense, where they run a lot of the same concepts on a lot of these plays, but there's so many different formations. And I think now what Kansas can really do is use even more motion, right? And get more creative with almost the window dressing, where everyone's got the confidence, they know the scheme, they know their spots. And now they can just add another layer of confusion to the opposing defense. And I think that's really what you're going to see is the different ways now that they can take the next step, right? I think the triple option looks, right? The way that they create space deep and in the intermediate parts of the field, right, through the air. And now it's just going to be about adding another dimension to where defenses don't know what to expect, while also keeping it simple for those players. So I honestly don't even think this is something where all of us are going to be able to watch the first 4 games of the season and say, oh, this is a new change for Kansas. I think it's almost going to be stuff that I think maybe casual fans watching on television or watching at Memorial Stadium may not even be able to tell, because it's just going to be a little bit more complex than I think just maybe the casual eye can pick up.
You have mentioned, and it has been something that has continued to come up, some nagging injuries, little bumps and bruises for KU football players as they go through camp and prepare for the start of this season. Is there anything right now that might be more of a long-term concern, or are these all just injury management kind of things that KU is going through right now?
It sounds like a lot of it's more soft tissue, short-term stuff, right? You look at, I'll use OJ Burrows and Tom Berryhill, for example. OJ started camp, I believe, with a soft tissue injury, and as camp went along, I think he did more and more. And then same deal with Tom Berryhill, where that allowed JB Brown to come on and have a really good camp. But I think generally the sense I get, at least, is this isn't stuff where I think he's expecting to lose guys for half a season or months on end. I think it's kind of someone's hamstring, someone's quad is a little nicked up right now, and they're just going to monitor it because, like you mentioned, right, they got the experience and a lot of guys that have been around. Where do they need a full-blown fall camp to be ready for the season? I don't really think so. And so I think it's just kind of weighing all right, what needs to happen, who needs to be available during camp, and who can they take a slower approach with and make sure that they're closer to 100% at the start of the season. So it sounds like a lot of it's short-term, right? Jalen Daniels, too, at the back stiffness. We'll see what Lance Blackwell has to say about it tomorrow. But it doesn't sound like these are a lot of things outside of Ron McGee's season-ending knee injury. There's not a lot of things that have been really new that are long-term injuries.
Michael, one freshman I wanted to ask about, and I know Nathan Swaffer, who works for you over at fog.net, and I know it's come up, you talking about it on the boards as well over at fog.net. Calvin Clements, the Lawrence Free State product, who, as we know, had an exciting recruiting period, if you will. Originally, it was Baylor, then flips. He ends up at KU now for his freshman year. Sounds like he is really making some waves at practice leading into the season. I'm not expecting to see him on the field a lot this year, but what can you tell us about the waves he's making? And, I thought going in, and I think we had talked about this when he committed to KU, that he's going to be a little bit of a project, was going to have to add some weight, work on the technique a little bit, but it sounds like he's really making a lot of fans over on that KU coaching staff.
Yeah, he really is. And I think this has kind of been the consistent theme since he arrived on campus. He's a lot further ahead than I think people expected him to be when he arrived. And so you're looking at him now when the depth chart comes out, this time next week. Like, I would not be shocked if Calvin Clements is the backup left tackle. Now, that doesn't mean if, Dominic Cooney goes down that he's going to play. That's not how KU's going to approach the offensive line this year. They're going to have more of a top 8 guys that are going to play if someone goes down and we'll move things around. But Clements is a guy that's really stood out. And I think you look at the next step for him now, it's just continuing to get stronger. And you look at him standing next to KU's other offensive linemen, and he kind of towers over everybody, even someone like Logan Brown. He makes Logan Brown look a lot closer to someone like Dominic Cooney than Calvin does. So he just stands out. You look at him in practice, and now it's just, hey, he's still, I believe he's 18, right? Continue just to get stronger and get more comfortable in the scheme. But I think he's just stood out with his character, his ability to learn, and then I think the physical gifts that he has. So it's been a really positive start for him, and his outlook right now looks really, really positive.
All right, last one I've got for you, Michael. We'll let you go. And I know you'll love this question, putting you in a tough spot like this. If you had to guess right now, who is Michael Boganowski playing for in 2024?
Oh, jeez. Oh, man. I don't even know. He doesn't even know. So, how can I guess?
No, that's entirely fair. It's unbelievable, Michael, that in an era where there's, easy to put out, graphics on Twitter and Instagram, and everybody's talking to you all the time, and you have all these, teams and coaches after you all the time. It's a little refreshing almost to have someone who genuinely is just doing things their own way, but also as a diehard fan, It's like, all right, let's go. Let's figure it out.
Yeah, it sounds like we'll take it to the fall. So I think it's going to really come down to, hey, who's going to have the best football season? Is it K-State? Is it Oklahoma? Is it Kansas? And then it's also a question of, all right, USC came in late. Did they make a move? But I think I might still, if you made me pick right now, I might still say K-State. But I'll tell you what, it's not over. He's not made a decision. I think this is one that KU is in. So really interested to see how it plays out because it seems really neck and neck right now.
I remember when Mike McCarthy coached the Packers, he used to always say, doesn't matter what your record is, you just got to get into the tournament. You just got to get to the end of the year, and then anything can happen. And I'll take that. Given where this recruiting has been for the last 15 years, Michael, I will happily take that with a player like Michael Boganowski. Go check out Michael Swain's work at fog.net and 24/7 Sports, the best coverage of everything going on with the Kansas Jayhawks. Go find him on Twitter, too, at mswain247. He joins us every Tuesday for Jayhawk Weekly here on 580 Sports Talk. Michael, you're the best, man. Thank you so much for the time.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Talk to you next week.
That's Michael Swain from fog.net. Absolutely awesome insight into everything going on with KU this week and every week for Jayhawk Weekly on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. We've got 1 hour left on 580 Sports Talk on this Tuesday afternoon. We'll get to the national and local news here at the top of the hour. When we come back, we'll get to our 580 Sports Talk headlines for the day. We'll have today's Chiefs training camp report with the voice of the Chiefs, Mitch Holthus. We'll get to a final word. We'll get some final thoughts on the Royals, Chiefs, and a whole lot more. Plus, we'll get to your text as well here on 580 Sports Talk. Hey now, 1 hour to go on 580 Sports Talk on this Tuesday afternoon. I'm Brendan Dworzinski. That's Dan Lucero. Two of us taking you all the way to the top of the 6 o'clock hour tonight. We've got Royals baseball coming up this evening, 8:40 first pitch from Oakland. It'll be Royals and A's. Maybe they'll crack 3,100 fans today. I hope they do. That's a fan base that deserves better.
Yeah.
I really do. So sad.
That park can be so much fun when the A's are good.
It is unfortunate how much Al Davis ruined that ballpark.
Yes.
It is hideous.
Like the story of professional sports in Oakland is so sad.
It is.
Because the history of sports in Oakland is incredible. You look at some of the great athletes in history that grew up prepped in Oakland. Bill Russell, Ricky Henderson. It's an incredible list. And there's such a sports heritage in that city. And soon they will have no professional sports teams after having 3 for a very long time.
Yeah. And just think of all the pros who went through those teams, the A's and
yes, championship histories like the Oakland A's, 4 championships, the Golden State Warriors in their time in Oakland. They moved far, but they're across the bay now. They're a San Francisco team now. Their arena is in San Francisco.
And it's like a lot of Twin City areas where there is an inherent rivalry and an inherent you're not us and we don't like you.
But yeah, not just the 4 championships in the Curry era, but a championship back in the 70s as well. And the Raiders and their championship heritage that they had in the 70s and 80s. And that's gone now.
That's a bummer.
It is.
Hopefully, the Royals game ended on a bummer note last night. Hopefully, a little better for the boys in blue coming up this evening. 8:40 first pitch. Angel Zerpa on the mound. Danny Jimenez for the A's. Royals for Zerpa, obviously.
Keep the ball in the ballpark.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
That is my request. Royals gave up 5 dingers last night.
Yeah. Pregame begins at
5? No, 4. I'm sorry. 4 for 6 runs. Yeah.
Not great either way.
It's not what you want.
No. Pregame at 8. First pitch at 8:40 right here on 580 WIBW and the Royals Radio Network coming up tonight. Here in this hour of the show, we've got our 580 Sports Talk headlines. We'll also hear from Mitch Holthus for our Chiefs training camp report, brought to you by Hy-Vee and Azura Credit Union. Talking Isaiah Pacheco today for our training camp report. Also, I saw this on Twitter, not from a reporter, but just from a Chiefs fan, and I think it is actually a very good point and a little bit of a canary in the coal mine moment that hasn't happened yet for the Chiefs and Chris Jones. We'll talk about that coming up later on in the hour. We'll still get to your texts, 785-272-9429. Your comments on YouTube as well. Name of the channel, you know it, 580 Sports Talk. Just go to youtube.com, search 580 Sports Talk. We're the first result. Subscribe if you haven't already. That's the best way to know when we're going live with the show every day, to know when we're going live after a Chiefs game, a KU game, K-State game, putting up any of our other content. Best way to know when that's coming up or coming out is to subscribe to our YouTube channel, which again is called 580 Sports Talk. And then you can hang out in the comment section as well if you're on the YouTube and watch along with the show every single day. With that, let's get to our 580 Sports Talk headlines for today. And let's go around college football a little bit here. Around college sports is maybe the best way to say it. Some quarterback battles being settled out west today. We know that high-profile Clemson transfer DJ Uiagalelei, who transferred to Oregon State this offseason from one Orange school to another. He will start for the Beavers this year. Not a surprise. Top 20 preseason team. Is it top 20?
Yeah.
Number 18, I believe.
Yeah.
In the preseason AP poll. They're going to be good. I really do think that Oregon State team is going to be good. He's a great fit for that program. Jaden Rashada, he is the starting quarterback, true freshman quarterback for Arizona State. He is the first announced true freshman starting quarterback in the Power 5 this year. Wild recruiting saga for Jaden Rashada. If you are into that kind of thing, you've probably heard that name, and woof, it was a mess. And it's amazing he got out of the state of Florida. I don't know how that happened, but somehow it did. So there's some quarterback news for you from around the country. I found this interesting today, not from football, but from a Hall of Fame women's soccer coach. Does the name Anson Dorrance mean anything to you?
That is the head women's soccer coach at the University of North Carolina, which has won a bunch of NCAA national championships.
Yes, North Carolina's got a great athletic department, aside from, the whole fake classes thing. Well, in an interview with WRALSportsfan.com, WRAL, a TV station and I think radio station down in North Carolina, Well, Anson Dorrance had some thoughts about adding Stanford to the ACC. That's been a little quiet on that front recently. Thought we might have some more news on that on Friday. That never came to fruition. Here's part of the quote from Anson Dorrance. I want Cal and Stanford to die on the vine.
Wow.
Not feeling great. Essentially, the point he brings up in this interview with WRAL Sports is that how do we as the ACC and how do we as an ACC non-major sport institution benefit from adding Stanford to this conference? Stanford benefits because A, they get a lifeline to stay in a power conference, and B, they get to expand an already national recruiting base. Everyone knows who Stanford is, but you might not know a lot about Stanford if you're not coming into people's living rooms during the week. But you know an easy way to make sure you get into living rooms along the entire Eastern Seaboard? Play Clemson, play North Carolina, play Virginia Tech.
Get on the ACC network.
Yes, exactly. So that benefits Stanford even with the travel, and they got so much money they can make that happen. How does it benefit women's soccer at North Carolina, for example? We've got to go travel across the country for extra games. We're not getting any sort of recruiting benefit from this. Because that's not an area of the country that, oh man, now, I never thought about going to North Carolina to play football or basketball, but now I am. No, that's not how that's going to end up working. It's a very one-way relationship, a parasitic relationship, if you will. At least that's how Anson Dorrance is putting this out there from North Carolina. I think it's an interesting point, and to be honest with you, I don't completely disagree. I'm not as hateful, frankly, as saying I want them to die on the vine, but I get where he's coming from. I really do.
Yeah.
So that is an interesting point there. Also, how about this from Ryan Glasspiegel of the New York Post, a sports media writer for the New York Post, which has two of the biggest names in sports media journalism at their publication, which is kind of weird, him and Andrew Marchand. Anyway, that's beside the point. In a recent report, Glasspiegel said his sources claimed that any conference not named the SEC or the Big Ten attempting to get in the way of how those two leagues construct the future of the college football playoff risks, quote, Pac-12ing themselves out of the tournament. Glasspiegel writes, quote, one source cautioned to the Post that the other conferences, this is obviously the Big 12 and the ACC, risk implosion along the lines of the Pac-12, which greatly overvalued itself in network rights negotiations if they stand too obstinately in the way of what the Big Ten and the SEC want. End quote. Here's what I would say, and I know I'm not the czar of college football. I don't get to make I know it's all about the TV networks and the money. I understand that. But if I'm a Big 12 school, I'm the Big 12 in general, to be completely honest with you, fine. Go make your 34-team Super League NFL Junior. And you can all pair up with an NFL team. And Rutgers and Maryland you can share, and like Vandy and Mizzou you can share. Like you can all partner up with an NFL team like Jed Fish wanted, and you can all go be NFL Junior and just be a worse version of professional football. ACC, Big 12, the Pac-4 schools, the G5. Hell, bring FCS up. Go back to pre-1976. Let's just all college football. What the hell? Why not? Let's bring back regional rivalries. Let's bring back what the sport was supposed to mean or meant at one point. Screw you guys. Go have your own playoff. Go have your 34-team league. See if we care.
There is a larger trend, not just in sports, but in society, of the powerful and influential trying to grab as much power and influence as they possibly can before the systems with which they have earned their power influence crumble beneath their feet. And we are seeing that in college football. Yep. And that's what this is. That's the Big Ten and the SEC know they have the programs that people want to watch, like the brands that people nationally want to watch above anyone else. And that matters right now. When the TV bubble bursts, which it will matter less, but they got to get what power and influence they can while it still matters. That's kind of what we're looking at here.
Yeah. And look, I was thinking about this last night. The Big 12, in the end, when you talk about, again, the things that historically have mattered to college football and to college sports, pageantry, tradition, rivalries, etc., all in all, the Big 12 ends up making out pretty well here. You keep KU, K-State, KU, Iowa State, K-State, Iowa State. Those teams have played each other for 100 years. That's not going anywhere. Adding Colorado, who played those teams for 80 years. Oklahoma State, they're kind of a man without a country now because they don't have a real natural rival, but they've played those other 4 schools for forever. They all still play. That's a good thing. Holy War, that stays together. That's a good thing. Colorado and Utah, they played together 100 years ago before Colorado joined the then Big 8, and now they've played together since 2011.
Yeah.
And it's been kind of a nice little regional
Rumble
rivalry.
in the Rockies, yeah.
Awesome. Great. That stays together. Territorial Cup. That's pretty nasty. That ends up staying together. Cincinnati and West Virginia back together. A more natural rival for West Virginia football that they used to play forever back in the Metro Conference days. Like, that's good. Those are natural things that stay together. Semi-regional and the East Coast schools they're kind of in a tough spot travel-wise, but a lot of the conference regionally stays together. A lot of the Southwest Conference back together again now that Houston is with them. Arizona schools and Texas Tech border conference schools back together again. Those are all good things. So despite losing Texas, despite losing Oklahoma, and previously Missouri and Nebraska, the Big 12 ends up being in a pretty good spot, and that's what I care about at this point. Like,
yeah,
look, congrats, you're NFL junior, awesome. Enjoy getting the Fowler and Herb Street broadcast team. Like, whatever. I'm going to care about what means something to me.
I'll watch those games, but I will also watch all the other games that don't impact the playoff because I like college football. And all college football is good college football.
Agreed. 100% agree.
A couple other college football notes while we have a moment. Haynes King is going to be the quarterback at Georgia Tech, former Texas A&M Aggie. He's won that job. Also, big loss for the Washington Huskies. Cam Davis, who's going to be their starting running back this year, he's going to miss the season with a lower body injury, unspecified by head coach Kalen DeBoer. Davis scored 13 touchdowns last season, was expected to be their feature back this year as a sophomore. So that is a big loss for the 10th ranked team in the country.
Big time. I think that Washington team is going to be pretty good, but that's obviously pretty difficult.
Couple of baseball stories for me as we continue our 580 Sports Talk headlines. One good, one not good. The good story is that Mike Trout is back. The star outfielder for the Angels has been activated off of the injured list. He missed 38 games after a broken bone in his left hand after he injured it while swinging the bat. I think he fouled a pitch off, but it was the swing and not any contact to the hand that caused the injury. Missed 38 games. Angels went 16-22 in his absence and are all but out of the realistic shot or of having a realistic shot to make the American League playoffs. God loves a trier, but maybe next time when you're trying to add better players, don't go get the 3 best hitters on the Colorado Rockies and call it good. Like maybe do something else to try and upgrade your offense instead of that. Anyway, Mike Trout back. That's good for him. That's good for baseball. This is not good. The Major League Baseball has placed Tampa Bay Rays shortstop Wander Franco on administrative leave today. Now, this is a procedural move. He had previously been on the restricted list, which only lasts for 7 days. You can only put a player on the restricted list for 7 days, after which you can either renew that and keep renewing it over and over again, or you can just put the player on administrative leave, which is indefinite with no time frame. The player continues to get paid and receive service time, accrue service time, which is important for free agency, though not really important for Franco because he's working on a 10-year contract in the first year of a 10-year extension. We haven't gotten too heavy into this story because there's just not a lot known about it, not a lot that is verifiable about it. But what is verifiable is that Franco is under investigation in his native Dominican Republic because of alleged relationships he had with girls who are under the age of consent. It was posted on Instagram, the allegation that he had a relationship with a 14-year-old girl. Franco denied that allegation directly in an Instagram live video that was only on the internet for a very short amount of time before wiser heads prevailed and pulled all of that off of the internet. There is also a subsequent investigation into a potentially inappropriate relationship with a 17-year-old girl. Franco is 22. The age of consent in the Dominican is 16, and that is a pretty hard and restrictive law in the country of the Dominican Republic. So he is under investigation. That investigation is ongoing. It is hard to say where this goes from here, there are certainly outcomes in which we never see Wander Franco on a Major League Baseball diamond again, which would be in a baseball sense, a tremendous waste of talent, because we are talking about one of the most valuable players in baseball and one of the most important players on a Tampa Bay Rays team vying for an American League East championship. But there is just not a whole lot that is really known or verifiable about this. There were the social media posts that were up for about an afternoon, and the Rays were sufficiently freaked to pull Franco from the lineup and then place him on the restricted list. Now he goes on the administrative leave list while these allegations are investigated. Again, being placed on administrative leave doesn't mean one thing or another. It just means that he is not going to play and not going to be around the team, and the investigation will continue. And however it turns out, this is a story that really sucks about a very talented and very exciting young baseball player.
Yeah, it's a bad story. I mean, there's really no getting around the very nasty and gross allegations that are out there. They are just allegations for now. That is fair to say. But yeah, it's not looking good. I think that's putting it as light as I can. Not to inject humor in an inappropriate time, but if I may add just a little bit of levity to the coverage of this situation, Bob Nightingale tweeted about it today. He tweeted, Tampa Bay Rays star Wander Franco's administrative leave is not indefinite, but there's also no end date. In other words, it's indefinite. As one Twitter user put it, he is the funniest person on the planet.
Another breaking Major League Baseball story from the last minute or so. Remember you said Angel Zerpa was going to start tonight's game for the A's?
You know,
for
I
the
do.
Royals against the A's. You lied.
Oh.
You lied to the people, Brendan. You were misleading. You were leading people astray because a minute ago, right-hander reliever Dylan Coleman optioned to AAA Omaha, so the Royals could activate Zach Greinke from the injured list, and Greinke will get the start tonight for the Royals in Oakland.
This is a change in information. I would like to say that. I did not intentionally mislead anyone. I promise you on that.
You know, I think I knew that last night, and then I just forgot about it because, I mean, how much brain power am I really using over the course of my 24 hours on Kansas City Royals transactions?
That's entirely fair. I will just say my source was literally MLB.com, which still says Angel Zerpa. And also my page has gone to Spanish. They are playing an Oakland Coliseum. And instead of ERA, Angel Zerpa's stats are listed as PCL right now. I don't know what the translation is for that.
Me either, bud.
Yeah, it's for real. It's all in Spanish.
No,
I don't know how
believe
that
it.
happened.
That's weird.
Just regular MLB.com. That'll do it for our 580 Sports Talk headlines for this Tuesday afternoon. Let's get to a break. And on the other side of it, we'll talk to Mitch Holthus, the voice of the Kansas City Chiefs, here on 580 Sports Talk. Just past 5:25 on this Tuesday afternoon. Brendan and Dan here with you on 580 Sports Talk. And now joining us is our good friend Mitch Holthus, the voice of the Kansas City Chiefs, and he joins us at this time every weekday during Chiefs camp leading up to the season for our Chiefs training camp report, brought to you by Hy-Vee and Azura Credit Union. Make sure you ask Haven, Crystal, or Melissa at Azura Credit Union about the credit union advantage for your home loan. Mitch, we are getting closer and closer to kickoff, one day closer today. How were things at practice?
Good. I mean, it's been reaction to the heat and humidity. Coach moved practice up quite a ways, actually. They did get outside, however, but it was still, just beastly combination of heat and humidity. But they went earlier, so they got some work in outside.
Well, glad to hear that. God, it is so beastly hot outside. We were saying on the show yesterday, it's crazy, not because teams are moving their practice schedules. That's very smart. It's crazy that football teams this time of the year are practicing in this kind of heat.
Very much so. And you got to be super careful with it. The high schools, colleges, I'm sure they're moving things up to be early in the morning as much as they can as well. There's just too many stories, but it's the combination of the heat and humidity. And this has been several years ago, but the NFLPA, there's actually a formula and there's a machine they've got that kind of goes off. It sets alerts when it does. It calculates the heat and humidity, basically give you the heat index. It's like, nope, not going to practice with this. So I'm glad. I mean, but all coaches and players and parents and got to hydrate like crazy, but also take every precaution to stay out of the heat because there's no redeeming value to even do anything out of this kind of heat.
No, there's no doubt about that, and a great PSA as well. And that brings us to today's Chiefs training camp report, Mitch. And the player we're going to talk about today, you actually mentioned him on yesterday's report. And this, I believe today was the first day, or maybe it was yesterday, first day without the yellow non-contact jersey for Isaiah Pacheco, one of the breakout stars of last year, had a big day in Super Bowl 57, was obviously so important for the team last year. And he was just a rookie, but still made a big impact. But there's a lot more, I think, that can be unlocked with him. Not a lot of fanfare when he got drafted as a 7th-round pick. Then, I know you remember, last year in camp, there was a lot of, hey, pay attention to this guy, pay attention to this guy. He's going to be something special. He certainly was, but I think there's a lot that's still untapped there.
Well, to review, our thesis this week is what has to happen. What do you turn the screw, take the screwdriver and turn it, one or two more notches to try to stay on top and ahead of all of this competition that is chasing the Chiefs in the AFC West, the AFC, and the NFL. And to me, one of the big areas is to unleash the passing game to running backs at the second or third level, not just check down throws. And Pacheco had the yellow jersey off yesterday. It was the first day, so he's gone 2 days now without the yellow, hey, don't hit me jersey. But Pacheco, whether he's going to run the ball, and keep in mind he only had 13 catches last year in the regular season, and only one play that was over 20 yards in the passing game. And I went back and watched it. It was a short screen pass against Seattle that ended up being a 32-yard gain on about a 6-yard pass. I'm talking about Pacheco getting loose and going deep in like a deep circle route, in getting the ball at the second or third level on a passing play against a safety or a linebacker. The Chiefs need to get a collection of plays like that to me to take an edge and a notch up to get some chunk plays this year where everyone thinks it's either going to come from Kelsey or a wide receiver. Not so much, and not just on screens or checkdowns or angle routes out of the backfield. Pacheco's been watching. He's been paying a lot of attention. And yes, it is on his radar to try to be more of a factor in the passing game at the first, second, and third levels.
Just transitioning, being the guy, just taking a lot of more mental reps and understanding, when my number is being called, it's time for me to go, and I'm just waiting for that to be called.
The runner in the passing game is a huge part of this offense, and I want to ask you about attacking the second and third level as a running back. What about that and being the next step for you?
It's absolutely part of my game that I want to work on, being able to make that second defender miss. And, that's come with a lot of watching film and being able to understand the way that the running scheme is getting drawn up on the drawing board. So I have a great example to hit the hole.
And what about running routes, like instead of just an angle or circle where you've got to run a deeper route? How much of that is stuff you're working on?
It's been something that we've been working on a lot of off season. For me, that's something that I love to do, expand the role of the package. So I take full pride in doing that. And so whenever I have the opportunity to showcase that, I'm full speed at it.
Yesterday, I talked about being even more creative. That's runners as receivers, receivers as runners. Sky Moore gives you that opportunity. So does Justin Ross, and so does Rashee Rice. Now, the running backs need to be the receivers. McKinnon was good last year, mostly short yardage and red zone. 28 of Patrick Mahomes' 41 touchdown passes were to either tight ends or running backs. That was the most since 1963. But I'm talking about chunk plays, big plays, where a running back either comes out of the backfield or lines up in a slot and runs a deep 7 route or a post route or a go and makes a big play in the passing game. That's quite honestly the next step for Isaiah Pacheco to become a big-time NFL running back.
So when it comes to then, Mitch, some of that creativity and the multiplicity, the ability to do so many things and create so many difficult matchups for opposing defenses, when you look at the running backs as receivers in the past that Andy Reid has coached, you go back to Philadelphia, the guy who comes out immediately to mind is Brian Westbrook. You look at recent Chiefs history, obviously you think of one of the best running backs of the 21st century in Jamal Charles. Where as a receiver do you think Pacheco needs to fall to unlock that part of this offense? Does he need to be a guy who you can line up in the slot darn near every snap, or does it just need to be a little wrinkle you can throw in occasionally?
In his case, it's more of a wrinkle that you can throw in occasionally. But keep in mind, my analogy was just turning the screw a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
How do you get a big play against a Buffalo or a Philadelphia or Cincinnati that they haven't either seen before, or you shock them with it? And then you throw it at the second level, and now he's in space to break a tackle, and it's not a screen play or it's not a bubble play. And you can get a big play because Pacheco is a tackle breaker. So to me, it's more sprinkle in than saying, hey, you're going to line up in a slot 40% of the time and run the entire route tree. It's just that Pacheco really hasn't been asked to do it. He can do it. He has to do it in a game, but it's the next step. But I'm telling you, if you're going, gosh, can they get to 13-4? Can they get to 12-5? Can they? That is the difference. Remember, I'm giving you little nuances here. It's tranquil, a scoop and score. It's something that our division opponents haven't seen before. It's Pacheco catching a 20-yard pass and running for 30 more, or going long and catching a 60-yard touchdown. That's the kind of stuff that takes you one step higher that teams haven't practiced for or catches them by surprise.
Our guest is Mitch Holthus, the voice of the Kansas City Chiefs, joining us here on 580 Sports Talk for a training camp report brought to us by Hy-Vee and Azura Credit Union. Mitch, when it comes to how Andy Reid prefers to spread the wealth, so to speak, among his running backs, is there an ideal job share or parceling of the carries, the snaps, the targets among a running back group where say running back 1 gets X amount of carries or X amount of snaps, and your running back 2 gets X amount, and if there's a running back 3, they might get X amount? Or is it very much a hot hand situation or a game flow situation that Andy Reid prefers to follow when deciding who it's going to be in the backfield?
I've been fascinated to watch this over 10 years. You mentioned Charles. He was kind of the first. And really, it's interesting to see what McKinnon has done in this offense, where last year, 7 consecutive weeks with a touchdown by a running back, which was a National Football League record. And his 9 touchdowns overall as a receiver is only one of 7 running backs in NFL history to do so. But to answer your question, it is almost opponent specific. It's not a hot hand. It's not flavor of the month. It's not, let's get these guys some touches. It really is opponent specific. And it can actually be a week to week proposition. But what Andy Reid loves the most is all of his guys can do everything. That he becomes very unpredictable by formation and by personnel. It is why, I'm glad you asked the question, because it brings up again why Pacheco, you're not just bringing in Pacheco and they think, this is going to be a run, which is kind of what it was last year. And if it is a pass, it's only going to be a short one or a screen. So that's exactly my point tonight, where coach wants everybody to do everything. So Pacheco being in there, all of a sudden he now motions to a slot, and he runs a 15-yard route. And he catches it. He breaks the tackle and runs for 20 more yards. That now becomes something to an opponent that crushes them because that's something they haven't had to account for. So long-winded answer to your question, but it's actually he wants everybody to do everything. And he'll look at a matchup against an opponent and realize, let's say they're not a great tackling secondary. Well, if he can get Pacheco involved in the second level, then he's going to use him because he can break tackles, if that makes sense. It's really a week-to-week proposition, and that's the way Coach Reed loves it.
Jerick McKinnon stands out for a lot of reasons. And he was instrumental in what the Chiefs did, certainly down the stretch last year. But one thing that stands out about McKinnon's skill set at the position is his ability to not just be an adequate blocker in the passing game, but be an impact member of the pass protection group, helping out, whether it's chipping or taking somebody on a blitzer one-on-one. He's really good at that, noticeably good at that. How can Pacheco get better at that aspect of his game? Is that something that he can add to his toolbox and give him the chance to be out there more on those third downs and be more of a weapon in the screen game if opponents identify him as somebody who, well, he might be staying home to block?
Well, and so it goes back when I say coach wants his running backs to do everything, that includes pass protection. In fact, that's almost sometimes the first box to be checked. You don't want a guy to come in and the team will actually change their defensive call. If Pacheco comes in and can't block you or me, then they're going to change a defensive call to send a blitz or a delayed blitz going, there's no way. And Pacheco's not going to be a receiver in this. So we have a man advantage. We're going after him. And that happens in this league a lot. It happens to our opponents. We see weaknesses in certain guys. Are like, okay, if he's in there, we're going to do this. But to answer your question, it is just, some of it is just time. You have to be a willing student, and it's not fun to do. You've got to eat your vegetables. Because if I was a running back, I'd rather catch the ball or run the ball than to block. And then I've got to block. It's always fun to watch it during camp, but I don't have to do it. And that's when the linebackers and safeties come after, like a blitz situation, one-on-one, and the RBs have to block. Usually the RBs get pummeled in that drill, unless you're like the old Tony Richardson, who's like destroyed guys in it. Now, Jet is like a wrestler. He's like a middle round wrestler who uses his leverage. He's not a big guy at all. And Isaiah's bigger and can be more physical, and you can actually jack some dude coming in there that's blitzing and give him a little treat for lunch. And so that's almost the mentality you have to have, but you've got to be really, really good, like a wrestler, in technique. Now let's go back to McKinnon. Remember when I said this is the first report maybe where Patrick Mahomes is kind of like an alter ego for coach or for Nags or for the lineman or anybody else on the team. McKinnon's a little bit of an alter ego for Mahomes in the fact that Jerick is so smart and has an understanding of the offense. And don't forget, he was a college quarterback at Georgia Southern, a really good one. Now it was option football, but Jerick McKinnon gets quarterback concepts. Just like his play against Denver last year when Mahomes threw the armpit throw and just, flung it like a dirt clod or a snowball fight, throwing sidearm. And McKinnon was able to McKinnon's really good at finding the void and play within a play to keep things alive or to get big plays. That was a 56-yard touchdown, McKinnon's longest pass play. So McKinnon thinks like a quarterback, and he tries to think like Pat. We always think it's just the receivers being on the same page or the tight ends or Kels, but really McKinnon is the valedictorian of being on the same page with what Patrick Mahomes is thinking or will think.
We're joined by Mitch Holthus, the voice of the Kansas City Chiefs here on 580 Sports Talk. It's our daily Chiefs training camp report with Mitch, brought to you by Hy-Vee and by Assura Credit Union. Speaking of blocking, Mitch, I think, and this really came up a lot last year when the Chiefs go out and they signed Juju Smith-Schuster, who was thought of as mostly a slot guy, but hey, he's big, he's tough, he's willing to block. They signed MVS, who when he was in Green Bay one of his best traits was his ability to block. And Green Bay runs the ball a little bit differently than the Chiefs do. So that was a big part of the team when he was there. I think a lot of time fans or even some media members talk about, oh, well, this receiver can block, or, oh, this running back can pass protect. What do the Chiefs actually want out of the quote-unquote skill position players as blockers? And I asked because I saw a play in the game against the Saints where Rashee Rice was kept almost in line and then sealed the edge as Mahomes rolled out to his right. I can't remember the last time I saw a wide receiver do something like that. So what do Matt Nagy, Andy Reid, and this offensive coaching staff actually ask out of the rushers and the pass catchers in terms of blocking assignments?
Well, what you saw is you're going to see a whole lot more of that, and that's next level football. And you'll see more teams do it if they have the personnel to pull it off. But to do that, you have to have a physical receiver who can move, who can block in space, much like a lineman who does it on a screen pass, which it's an art form. We take it for granted, but if a lineman can do it. But now, where football is going, this is kind of 21st century football at all levels, but for sure in the National Football League. And it answers your question in the fact that if you're going, it's the toolbox. And it's nice to have receivers. Richie James can do it. He's not a big guy, but I told you, he's the door hinge guy. He's the Byron Pringle, Jason Avant, that Coach Reid has always had going back to his time in Philadelphia. And even Green Bay had him when Coach was the Favre's quarterback coach back in the 90s, that they are able to do that play. It's an art form to have a legal offensive pass interference or become a blocker in space. And that's what Juju could do. That's what these guys are learning to do and bring something to the table that has nothing to do with your fantasy football league, but everything to do with the Chiefs somehow trying to get back to 13-4 and get a bye. Because there will be big plays there, because that receiver in that instance could be blocking for Pacheco. Okay? So that's my point. Think about this. So I think outside the box. And now Pacheco, who can break tackles, gets a key block on the edge, and now he's going to run for 40 yards in what looks like a pass play or a baby screen.
Mitch Holthus is the voice of the Kansas City Chiefs. He joins us every single day as we lead up to the Chiefs season for our Chiefs training camp reports, brought to you by both Hy-Vee and Azura Credit Union. Talk to the fine folks at Azura about the credit union advantage when you get your home loan. The Royals are jacking up our schedule a little bit tomorrow, Mitch, so we will talk to you again coming up on Thursday afternoon.
Yeah, what we're going to do is two things on Thursday, and people do not want to miss it. Make it appointment radio. Because there's two things. One, we're going to deal with Felix Anduke-Uzomah. Remember, you got to somehow, how are you going to turn the screws a little tighter, get up to, how do you get it back to 13-4, 14-3, and try to get everything done that I mentioned at the outset of this interview. But I'm also going to sit down with Coach. I'm going to get a chance. I get a one-on-one with him later on Thursday. I'm going to ask him what it takes to be a wide receiver on this team or any team that Andy Reid coaches. So it kind of dovetails off your last question, but you don't want to miss it because I'm going to sit down with all right, you got 8 dudes trying to get 6 or 7 slots. What has to happen for a guy to make this team? And that'll just take us and bounce us right into the Cleveland checklist on Friday.
Perfect. Mitch, we will talk to you then, 5:25 Thursday afternoon.
See you, boys.
That is Mitch Holthus, the voice of the Kansas City Chiefs, joining us here for our Chiefs training camp report on 580 Sports Talk. Awesome stuff, as always, with Mitch Holthus. Let's get to a quick break here on the program. We'll come back. An interesting thought that I think makes a lot of sense regarding the Chris Jones situation. We'll touch on that next. This is 580 Sports Talk. 547, it's 580 Sports Talk. I'm Brendan. He's Dan. Thanks for hanging out with us this afternoon. Your texts and YouTube comments still welcome. Text line 785-272-9429. YouTube comment section can be found on our channel, 580 Sports Talk. Make sure you're staying hydrated out there. If Mitch Holthus is telling you to stay hydrated, then stay hydrated.
Yeah,
listen to what the GOAT says.
Yeah, you don't listen to us, I understand, but you listen to Mitch, right?
You listen to us for 4 hours every day. So when Mitch speaks, we all got to listen. I saw this on Twitter just a little while ago, and I think it's actually a really good point regarding the Chris Jones situation and waiting for something to happen. This is from Chief Bearcat on Twitter. So shout out to you, Chief Bearcat. He says, the one move I've been waiting for that would tell me a Chris Jones deal is coming is whatever cap clearing move they have waiting in the wings. If they restructure or extend some other player besides Chris to clear cap, that is probably a sign that a Chris deal is unlikely. So yeah, that's true. You are right up against the cap right now if you're the Kansas City Chiefs. The camp bodies you added over the last couple of months, then signing your draft picks ate up pretty much 99+% of your cap space. Is it under $1 million still?
I think it is.
That the Chiefs have
6 figures, maybe even 5.
Yeah, it's not a lot. Although, granted, a couple of years ago, the Chiefs famously had something like $5,000 in salary cap space or whatever, and they ended up still making it to the AFC.
I think they ended up
Championship
extending
game.
Chris Jones.
Yeah, it ended up working out just fine for them. The Chiefs right now, according to Spotrac, are actually below the cap. They are $533,000 under right now, or over the cap, I should say. Doesn't make a huge deal until cut down day when you have to be under the cap. So they'll end up being fine with it. The Buccaneers are also, by the way, over the cap right now. But I do think that's an interesting point. That there usually is a canary in the coal mine move. There usually is, someone got restructured. They freed up that money for something. The Browns just did it today. They restructured David Njoku to free up more cap space. They now have the most cap space in the NFL after that maneuver.
Interesting.
So that would lead me to believe our pal Jordan Foote, he tweeted out the Brian Windhorst gift. Now, why would the Utah Jazz do this?
Right.
What is going on in Utah? Why would the Browns do that at this stage when they already had over $20 million in cap space available? Makes you think maybe they're trying to make a move. I don't know exactly why they're doing it. I don't know who that would be for the Chiefs eventually, but I do think that is something worth paying attention to. If we hear, hey, Travis Kelce got a restructure or he got a 1-year extension and going to spread some money out or whatever, then I think it's safe to say it's happening. But until that point, we're still kind of in this same holding period.
And it would lend you to believe, because we have talked about the Chiefs maybe adding a veteran piece, maybe a pass rusher, if they felt like that was necessary.
Mm-hmm.
They're kind of running out of time to do it and get them into your practice sessions and get them on the field for week 1 and have them be impactful in that way, if that's what you wanted to do. And if the Chiefs were more into doing that than they were into getting the Jones extension done, they would have moved on to something else financially that could have made some sense for them and cleared up that cap room. They could have made that happen in another way. The fact that they haven't could be a suggestion, indeed, that they are optimistic about their negotiations with Jones, or they don't want to prioritize anything else above that. They don't want to give the impression that, as I've suggested, that maybe you get to the point where you say, look, this is our offer, take it or leave it. And if you're not going to take it, then it's fine. We're going to pull it and you're going to come to camp or you're not. This would seem to indicate the Chiefs aren't there yet, which I think is good.
Yeah.
If you're hoping that Chris Jones is in the Chiefs uniform for this season and beyond.
By the way, I'm re-looking at this from a Spotrac. The Chiefs' top 51, which is who the salary cap actually counts against, they are $500,000 over the cap. In terms of the entire 90-man roster right now, the Chiefs are actually almost $32 million over the cap. So they might need to make a restructure anyway, even after they make cuts to get down to 53. So I think that is worth paying attention to. What percentage are you at right now that a deal gets done with Chris Jones? Not that he shows up, but that an extension gets done. I just mentioned our pal Jordan Foote, who he had a poll out on Twitter that was all pretty low numbers. The highest one was 25% or higher. That's what I voted. I still think there's at least a 50% chance something happens, but that I was at 98%
Yes,
at one
I
point.
was at 100 probably at some point this summer.
Yeah, so that is
and then I went down
to
to like when he wasn't there to start training camp, I went down, but only to like 99, 98. Yeah. When Quinnen Williams got done, I think I went back up to 99. And now I'm probably sitting right around like you, like 50-50, that it gets done or doesn't get done.
The Chiefs are better with him, but like I said earlier at the top of the show, I would like him out there because I want the Chiefs to beat the Lions and beat them handily come week 1. But there's a part of me that would love to see what this defense would look like, because you want to talk about a major door hinge moment like Mitch Holthus would say. Like, if the Chiefs defense looks awesome against that Lions offense, moment for Chris Jones.
Right.
If the Chiefs don't look good against that Lions offense, it's an moment for the Chiefs, because then it becomes, okay, well, we have no other option. We have to get him in.
Because maybe that's what it becomes, a staring contest.
Right.
That's kind of what it was for, I remember when Cam Chancellor held out in prime of his career for the Seahawks. I want to say that was the year after they went back to the Super Bowl. And that was probably Chancellor's best year, the Super Bowl 49 year where they lost to the Patriots. He held out. I think he missed the first 2 games. And in those first 2 games, it was readily apparent that they were not the same football team without him. And so they had to get something done, and they did.
Yeah.
And maybe that's where Chris Jones is at right now. Maybe he's thinking, hey, they're going to find out how much they need number 95.
He didn't talk as much as Richard Sherman. He didn't get in as much trouble as Brandon Browner, and he wasn't as weird as Earl Thomas, who also, a lot of Hall of Fame talent in that group. Cam Chancellor is going to go down as one of the most underrated players in NFL history. I genuinely believe that.
He may not go to the Hall of Fame, but he is my favorite player from the Legion of Boom.
He kept it together.
He's not the best player. That I think was Sherman, and he wasn't like the guy whose jersey I bought that was Earl Thomas, because he was great right away. But Cam Chancellor was ultimately that's the guy in 20 years I'll be talking about the fondest, because he played football the way football is always better 20 years before, whenever it is you're talking about football.
Right.
And so 20 years from now, say, that was when men were men. Cam Chancellor knocked your block off.
We've got one more break to get to. Final word is next. Wrapping up 580 Sports Talk, some breaking news from the Chicago White Sox just now. Kenny Williams and Rick Hahn, their front office tandem for the last way too long, fired today. Jerry Reinsdorf driving some heat on him, too.
Yeah, maybe the White Sox will try to win at some point. Maybe somebody in the American League Central will try and win.
Maybe. Ken is like a son to me, and I will always consider him part of my family. That's why I fired him.
That's why it was so hard to fire him.
Dan, what's your final word?
Final word for me today. We saw the Kansas City Royals renderings for their 2 proposed stadium projects earlier today. What the stadiums look like in renderings really doesn't mean a whole lot to me. I like one more than I like the other, but of course the final product's going to look a lot different. And frankly, better, because if you're going to build a new stadium in Kansas City, I hope it is a stadium that is of Kansas City, that is recognizably Kansas City, at least as recognizably Kansas City as Kauffman Stadium has been for many years.
Final word for me today, like we just said, Chris Jones, I'm about 50-50 on, but here's something I'm 100% on. I will never say a nice word about Taj Boyd. Y'all learned that about me earlier in the show today. No nice things to say about the former Clemson quarterback, now ACC network analyst. That does it for 580 Sports Talk today. If we are on tomorrow, it will be a very abbreviated show sometime in the 5 o'clock hour. Some combination of us are going to join you, but the Royals play at 2:37. If we join you, we'll talk to you then. If not, we will talk to you coming up on Thursday when we have a jam-packed show coming your way. Paul Meyerberg, Rick Peterson, Tim Fitzgerald, and Mitch Holthus all coming up Thursday. We'll talk to you sometime between now and then. For Dan, for Jake, I'm Brendan. We appreciate you for listening again to 580 Sports Talk. Royals baseball coming up tonight.